Barletta Family Trust, looking for an extension, 180-day extension. Pat, is there any issue on that?
This is their first request, Mr. Chairman. They were dealing with the health department, and if you remember, they had to remove a patio that was overlying the property lines. So that
Yes.
work, I believe, has been done, but they're still waiting for health department approval.
Okay, all right. And nobody has an issue with that? Can we have a motion to grant it?
I'll make a motion.
Okay, second,
A second, Chip.
okay, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Great. Okay, and next committee report is the Harrison Fire Department. Is there somebody here representing the fire department?
Yes, I'm here. Martin Sunluski. I'm the architect for the fire department.
Hi, Martin, how are you?
Very good. How about yourself?
Good, thanks.
How would you like me to proceed?
We know nothing about it.
Okay, all right.
So if you want to give us a quick overview, so.
I will. I'll give you a quick overview and I can share my screen with some of the documents that we have. You should have some documents also in front of you as far as the site plan drawings, which I hope you have copies of. We had submitted the paper copies.
We do.
Okay. The history, we started the project back in the last quarter of 2020. We went through preliminary design with the members of the fire district, the chiefs, actually the department, the chiefs. We did have a meeting with the town board in their capacity as the Board of Fire Commissioners to review the project. They agreed to move ahead in terms of seeking bond approval for the financing. In order to proceed with the bond approval, the Board of Fire Commissioners, again, the town board acting in capacity as the Board of Fire Commissioners, did go through the secret process in order to, which is required in order to proceed with the bond vote. That was done with referrals back in, would have been in October with the initial referrals. And then they did, after that, a final part 2 and issued a negative declaration.
Okay.
At that time, they were then in a position to proceed with the bond vote. The bond, bond was voted on December 15th and passed by the voters of the community, the taxpayers. We're now in the process of completing the bidding documents. The project will be out to bid actually on April 1st. The bids will come back in May. After that, we still have some things to do and approvals before we can move forward with starting construction. I see Chief is on the, Ralph is on the call now also. Ralph, do you want to add anything before I go through the plans? I don't know if
It's not.
I guess he looks frozen. For Ralph, can you hear us? I think we're having a little trouble with Ralph. When he comes back in, we'll pick up with that. But in either case, I'm going to share my screen now if I can. And what I'm going to bring up is a presentation that we had at the public informational meeting that was held relative to the project. Let me figure out how I could do this here. Let's see. Don't mind me. I'm not like super tech savvy here, so I may be having trouble sharing my screen. Let's see here. Here we go. Here we go. Share screen. All right, I'm going to share my screen. So what we have here.
Sorry, hold on.
Here we go. What we have here is the submission for the project. On this particular drawing, we have the location map. This is the existing conditions survey. That is a new survey that was completed by Axel Nasher and Ziegler and surveyors. It's a current survey that is currently up to date. We did have test holes taken of the property here, which gave us a reading on our soils and the situation we have there, which actually worked out fairly well for us. To the right here is the staging plan. And I'm trying to see if I can move this on my screen somehow. Okay, that's better. See if I can get it to this side. Let me move this actually. Can you see my my cursor arrow?
Yes,
Okay, so this plan to the right is the staging plan. What our plan is at this time is when we start construction, we would close off the northern parking lot. We would put a barrier at the southern portion. This is the parking lot that accesses off of Park Avenue.
And so let me step back in then. As Rena said, I unfortunately just this afternoon learned of a situation involving my father and his healthcare, some healthcare concerns. I have to get on a call with some administrators and some healthcare professionals at some point during this thing. So I'll pop off. I'll probably come back on. I certainly hope that I'll be back on before you're done. But I have plenty of time to do some of this preliminary stuff that
Joe Ariel, you're not on mute.
And so let me get started with that. First of all, you know,
who's speaking?
Joe Ariel.
That,
Joe Ariel,
the play is perfect.
Ro, can you?
Where we're
Mike
going.
Pacini, can you mute him?
Knock him off,
It's a
please.
romantic comedy. It's legitimately funny. It's light.
Joe Ariel,
but it
Mike,
has
that's who you need.
as Shakespeare always does, some really, deep and beautiful observations that I think we can all, we can all hang our hats on and enjoy taking a deep dive into.
All right, I muted everyone, so you can unmute now, whoever needs to speak.
Thanks, Mike. Martin, you got to unmute. There you go.
Okay,
There you
great. So anyway, this plan to here is our staging plan. This is the existing building here with the building next door immediately adjacent to it on Harrison Avenue and Fremont Street. So what we would do is we would temporarily block off the driveway access from the south parking lot to the north. We would put a barrier and a silt fence around the portion of the site where the work is being done. We would bring in a temporary trailer and a construction access gate here. There is a natural drainage that runs down this driveway, so we would put in a temporary drainage swale here just to pick up any runoff from the parking area on this southern portion of the parking lot. And here we would do a saw cut and only remove the paving where the addition is going during construction. So it would be a fairly clean construction site with minimal disruption. Going to the next drawing. Let's see here. Oh, here we go. Whoops. We go up. This takes a little time. Here we go. So this would be the proposed plan. And here, what we're doing is a straight out addition to the rear of the firehouse, except for the corner where the tower is. So this line here, where we're adding out the back, is exactly the current gable, the main gable roof of the original structure. Then we are also adding to the back of the 1970s addition across the back of the building. The entire addition goes out 32 feet across the building. It has a jog in it, as does the back of the building. It does not add any more impervious surface. In fact, we are removing all of the impervious paving in that area for the new addition. If anything, we will have slightly less impervious surface because we're replacing their deck with a small patio that is going to be made out of drainable pavers. And we would do the addition and then reconfigure the parking and striping, closing one of the current accesses to the parking lot, only keeping the western access with parking that will remain along the west property line, parking immediately behind the firehouse, the existing parking here and the existing parking on the south lot. Here is a blow up of the area directly fronting Fremont Street. This is the new addition line here, coming out 32 feet. This is the paver patio. This is the current storm drain that is on the property that will remain. And this is the area behind the a lot that is now currently fenced in with the fuel pump, the dumpster. We will be replacing the generator with a new generator, and we will have a hot box water service for a new RPZ that's required because the building requires sprinklers to be brought up to code. So in order to bring in a sprinkler, we have to bring in a 4-inch main with a device that has to be at grade. So we'll do that with a hot box there. All of the drainage remains as existing. The addition, we did a test hole behind the building here and verified the grades and the depths, which all worked out well. There is an existing drain line that runs along the back of the building from the leaders that ties into the current on-site drainage pipe. That pipe will be rerouted around the addition. One thing we will do is the southern addition has 2 leaders on the south elevation that currently drain to grade. They do not drain into the drainage system. We will be able to pick them up and drain them into the drainage pipe that we are going to extend around the corner of the building. The building plans here on the first floor, the back of the building here currently has bathrooms and a laundry area, a day room and a storage room here. Those would be removed. There would be new gear areas and a bathroom for the firefighters added in the back of the older bay. One of the problems the firefighters have is their gear is now currently along the wall next to the rigs. It does not meet all of the requirements for OSHA. They need a place to don their gear when responding to a fire. We're redoing the radio room as a gear wash area and moving into this room here, which would now be the radio control room. The existing bay will then have a new door in the back, and on the 70s side where we add on, there will be 2 bays for ancillary vehicles that can egress the back of the building. There's an office here, a chief's office, and a training bailout area from the 2nd floor for the firefighters to train. There'll be a new back door that comes in with 2 bathrooms, an elevator to all levels. This will provide handicapped accessibility throughout the facility to all of the levels. And a new day room for the firefighters, along with that patio that I talked about on the rear of the building. So basically this addition is day room, bathrooms, elevator, and circulation space with a stair that goes up to the paid firefighters' quarters, and the bay addition with the office out the back. As we go to the mezzanine, this is just the area open to the bay with the additional height. And as you come up the stair here, right now, this is the bunk room for the paid firefighters presently. That will be converted to a sitting area with 2 bathrooms with showers. The stair will come up to a new bunk area that will have a hallway with lockers and 5 individual bunk rooms for paid firefighters when they are on duty. Going up to the 2nd floor, we have the existing meeting room, which will remain. The existing entryway and stair and the tower stair will remain. The stage is going to be converted to a conference room so that they have an additional small conference room to use. The recreation room up above, the ready room up here will remain the same. The bathrooms will be, right now, this is a chief's office and another office here and 2 bathrooms. We're going to take those out, create an IT room for all their electronics. This will be a new fitness room for the members, and this will be a storage room for table and chair storage off of the meeting room. Then right here is the addition coming out the back. This is that training bailout area where they would come up the stairs, come into this area. That's open to below, and they do bailout training through the window here. And then along the back of the building, 4 new offices, which they need a tremendous amount of office space that they're lacking now. 2 full public bathrooms with a janitor's closet. And then going up a half a flight of stairs level with the current stage in the back, this is a standby area for the volunteers with 2 bunk rooms and a sitting room and a bathroom with a shower. If you notice here, the elevator has a door on this side into that area, which gives access to the conference room, and this area has a door here, which creates access into the second floor with a new hallway access into the meeting room that also wraps around to the standby room or the ready room. And that elevator also continues and has access to the paid firefighters as well as the first floor. And there is a small mechanical basement. We were able to bring the elevator down to the basement also. The building elevations, what we have is on the front elevation facing Harrison Avenue, there will be, the only change will be, we are going to remove the pier between the two overhead doors on the southern portion of the building and combine that as one larger overhead door, similar to what they had done years ago with the old portion. So there are currently 3 doors here. These 2 will combine to 1 door. Other than that, we have some brick repair, some areas that are deteriorated, and some repointing to be done. And we will replace the windows with new energy efficient windows. The roof will be replaced with a new asphalt shingle roof. We're going to use a Hatteras shingle, which is a large 8-inch exposure, has a shadow line to simulate a slate roof. It's a 40-year roof with a 120 mile an hour wind rating. As you look at the south side, this is the immediately facing the building to the south. This is the existing building, which would not change here. And this is the addition. And you can see here what we did is we now have the brick coming out of the addition. That will go beyond the building that is adjacent to the firehouse. With that, going to the north side facing Harrison, this is the building here. This is the tower. This is the low area. And right here where my cursor is, that's the back of the existing building, the current gable. That is a straight out addition to that gable wall, a straight out addition of that roof line to the back, which then to the right here, this is the back elevation. What we're literally doing is that gable that is on the back of the building will be brought straight out 32 feet. We're going to use the corbelling as well as the brick detailing and the soldier course to match the existing appearance. We did find the brick that matches the brick pretty much dead on. One change will be that the 70s edition was just done in stucco. We're actually going to bring the brick facade around the back of that portion of the addition also, then carry it around the side where it's exposed to the south. So that's the extent of the addition. I did have in here, here we go, which this was a presentation showing the plans for the building when we had the public review, just with color elevations. And you can see here, we're matching, this is existing with the new door, existing tower, the Harrison Avenue addition, a straight out addition with the same brick. So it'll be a consistent running straight out. And then the rear elevation, which we like, because now this is brick, it'll basically match what's there. And this will now be brick, which is now stucco. From this, there's no increase in runoff. Actually, there'd be a slight decrease based on the drainable paver patio. Again, once we're done with the addition, we would then, where we have the saw cut, we will refill that area where the construction disturbance is. We will then mill the existing parking lot and we will repave the existing lot. I'm going to go back to those drawings because those are show the engineering of the site plan. And then we will repave the entire existing lot from the bottom of the hill up and repave the lot. There is a total, we do have a total on site of 35 parking spaces. Currently, we are losing a couple of spaces that are currently, these are all existing. Here, the ones here in the middle of the lot, here and here. There is the firefighter parking, which is 8 spaces along this wall here that currently park along the back of the building. Those are the ones that are being removed as part of the addition. But in addition to that, based on the calculation we did, we do feel we still are within the requirements for the parking. All of the zoning, setbacks, et cetera, do meet the zoning of the property. Again, the board in their capacity as the Board of Fire Commissioners did go through the secret process using the same standard as used in the Monroe case with regard to their lead agency status as the Board of Fire Commissioners, taxing and doing the expenditure and planning the facility, and gave it the hard look all along, along the way. So with that, I will open up to questions. I don't know if Ralph is still on, if he had any comments, if he's unfrozen now.
Yeah, I'm unfrozen and you're doing a good job.
So with
I have a
that,
question.
yeah, any questions the board may have or any information we could provide, we're happy to do.
Yeah. The west view, can you bring that up again?
Sure,
The pictures?
Sure, absolutely.
That's the back of the building,
That
right?
is the back of the building. That is correct.
And that's the picture on the right?
That is the picture on the right. That is correct.
Okay, is that, and I see the glass window, is that a doorway, a back door
This
to
is
the,
this is the new overhead door for the truck bay.
so
and
there'll be a door in the back of the building and in
Yeah,
the front?
that will be an overhead door. If you look at the plan here, let me just move this out of the way here. If you look at the first floor plan, now this floor plan is a little bit reversed from the floor plan I had in the site plan, because we actually, when we did the engineering drawings, we faced north upward. So here the drawing is just reversed where north is southward. So here is the existing bay. They'll have a small bay here where they're gonna store the antique that they have. They have the two bays here, the two bays here. This will then be an additional two small bays facing the back of the firehouse. This would be like for the chief's vehicles, frontline vehicles. Chief, you might want to expand on that a little bit.
Yeah, it's also in case we need to use it for like a drive-through bay. There'll be front to back access.
So there's parking spaces back there, right?
That's correct.
You know, on the
Can a
new parking,
Can a fire truck make that turn? And get around, work their way past those cars and around the sharp left
get that to the.
into the back bay door?
Yeah,
The
let me
back bay door is not for daily use. So if we needed to use it, we would make adjustment for that. And it's also for down the road, if we ever needed to relocate an ambulance downtown, we would have the space for that.
Yeah, our primary plan right now is that all of the frontline vehicles, certainly the aerial stays right where it is. That's where it's designated to stay. The rescue, the two engines. What they will do is one of the engines, in fact, I don't know if I have it shown on the plan. Actually, I do. Here is the aerial, the tower ladder. This is, I believe, the one of the engines. Then we have two additional engines and the rescue. The rescue will be either here behind this engine or they would tandem the engines. They would still roll out the front. What we show here are the size of two SUVs. That would be like the chief's vehicles, especially in a weather situation where they were doing a standby. They would be able to keep those vehicles inside initially also. Or as Ralph said, if they have an ambulance, which is which is a smaller vehicle and much more maneuverable, they could face that out of the back for a response immediately out the back of the building.
How many parking spaces are being lost? I have a couple more questions. How many parking spaces are being lost?
Currently, we would lose 8 parking spaces. Let me just check my well, you know what, I got it. Here's a little bit easier for me to see on the screen. We have on the existing condition plan, let me look at that. Yes, I'm sorry. So we have 8 parking spaces that currently exist. Oops, my mouse here. there are 8 parking spaces that currently exist along the back of the firehouse here. Those spaces would be eliminated.
8 out of how many?
Uh,
You're losing for your apartment building.
And actually, there
Like
are,
36 down to 26, if I see right.
correct, correct.
10 lost.
That's correct. We're losing a couple right here. There are 3 right here. It's very tight right now. There's a very narrow driveway through here to wrap through this parking lot. If you come in this way, it's really tight. You come in this way, it's tight. One thing that happens here is this aisle widens up to a full 25-foot aisle. Right now, it's a very narrow aisle. If you look on the existing
It's not
plan here, you can see that this is a very narrow aisle. It's not even the width of a parking stall. It's like about an 18-foot aisle with parking, another 18-foot aisle. Essentially, this goes and this parking slides this way. It moves frontward to widen up this driveway for more maneuverability, coming through this way and into or out of the back of the building. Here's the apron with the overhead doors here. You can see this is wide open, that an ambulance or a chief's vehicle can come out and easily pull through. Because again, this is now a 25-foot access driveway.
Right now, behind the building, the firehouse building, right, I see a big gray tractor trailer container
Yes,
and several smashed cars and then some parking for police, or rather fire department employees or something, right? What's gonna happen to all that?
The container is going to be moved. We don't know if we're gonna put it somewhere else or get rid of it entirely, since we'll have more space inside the building. And the cars were there for extrication training, which is only for a small, short period of time.
And then the parking, that's the fire personnel parking there?
Yes.
I mean, I think I've seen the chief's car there.
There's a utility back there, yes.
Utility, so that has to be,
there would
that
be
goes-
parking that would be striped as reserved for the fire department use, as there is now. There's a mix of parking. So we are gonna lose about 10 spaces overall. One of the discussions during the review, which the board took into consideration but did not implement at this time, was the thought that if we had to, since Fremont is a one-way street and it's a fairly good sized roadway, that we could also put fireman parking only on a diagonal along the southern curb of Fremont Street. That
I see.
would be designated strictly for fire personnel.
2 more questions. Right now, it's a 2-way passage. Would it stay that way?
The passage for this aisle,
Going right through from Fremont to Park?
parking, this is, I believe that this is one way heading north. I've always entered here from the south heading northward. I guess, I don't know if anybody drives down this way. I've never done it.
Oh,
Two
yeah,
way.
yeah,
It's
I always
2-way.
enter-
it's
Yeah,
2-way.
people do it.
Okay, this is really just a single lane. I always thought it was one way. I always drive up this way and park here, or I come in through Fremont and park in here. I've never exited this way. I always exit onto Fremont and then go to Harrison and proceed in a southerly direction.
So my
My
question is, will
Yeah.
it stay 2-way or what's the plan?
I think maybe it would be more wise to put a do not enter sign here, because people could simply pull out. Also, they could simply pull out and they could pull onto Harrison this way, or we could do it the other way where we make it do not enter from the bottom, which would clear up traffic coming up the hill, coming past where these doors are and turning this way. Either way would work. I mean, we could run the one way in either direction, or we could leave
Yeah,
it.
I guess the short answer to that, though, is we're not actually touching the driveway.
Right.
The other thing is there going to be any excavation underneath the new construction?
Yes, there will be.
How-
The southern portion, I'll go to the plan. Looking at the first floor plan here, This southern portion, the northern portion, I mean, of the addition right here.
Yeah.
You see a door here with a stair also. This portion of the building right here will have a basement under it. There is currently a basement under this portion here. And then all of the bays are on grade. So there's a basement here. We're going to be adding a basement under this portion that does have the elevator going down to that level. And allows them to utilize that for storage. Plus, when we come in from the RPZ and we bring our sprinkler line in, that's where the water room would be for the sprinkler valve. And then under this portion of the basement is going to be a new electric room because we got to bring in a new electric service near the generator. So that will be excavated. The basement floor is 9'2" below the existing floor. The grade is 8 foot below the existing floor. So we're stepping the footings down from the existing building to this new basement area. Just as an add to that, if you see these two circles here, those are actually covers of 2 manholes that we have, which are going to be utilized for confined space rescue training in the bay, with setting tripods over those. And that actually will have a reinforced concrete pipe that would allow them to use that basement area for confined space training. A lot to do with the fire district right now is training. So we always design training options into our facilities for the department use.
So the question is the excavation that you're talking about closer to Fremont, or is it closer to the next building?
Oh, it's much closer to Fremont. Yeah,
Oh, so
if you look at the plan here, this is the building next door.
Yep,
This is the retaining wall next door.
that's where I'm going. The
Yeah, here's the
retaining wall.
retaining wall. Next to that, we're just building at grade. So we're just gonna.
Okay.
So this whole base stays at grade. Right here, where the 4-foot break is, this block right here,
Got it.
that small block has the basement. And
Yeah.
then actually, just as a side to that, we actually have good material down at that level, and our water is down 13 feet, which may actually be perched. We believe that to be some perched water that's down there. But the test holes came back good. There's actually we have fill material in that area down to where we're going to dig the basement out. So that's actually an advantage. We would pull that material out, do the basement. We don't require any piles or any disturbance in that regard. And it's a pretty straightforward rear addition. It will be nice to do the addition with the saw cut and removing the paving in this area, keeping the parking for staging, for the trailer, for the construction entrance. It's nice. I call it a gentleman's job site where you don't have the mud hole, which is a nice advantage. So we'll get this all done. We'll mill the parking lot, put the binder here to match the mill, and then we'll repave this parking lot down to the bottom of the hill.
So the excavation will not threaten the retaining wall
No,
collapse.
no.
Got it.
That'll be
Okay, that's it.
50. That is actually based on the size of the addition here. That is approximately 60 feet away from the retaining wall.
Got it. Good. Thank you.
Anybody else on the board have any questions or comments?
Good job. Go build it.
Battery at the frame?
It looks nice.
Yeah, it's a long time in coming.
Yes, it
Yeah.
is.
Yep. Well, if there's any comments from the board, I think we're looking forward to you guys getting started on it. And Pat, I don't think we have to do any formal presentation. Any
No, sir,
formal
there's no
comments.
action required of the planning board here.
We appreciate being brought into the loop.
In your shop?
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Have a nice evening now.
All right, thank you, gentlemen
And lady.
and ladies.
First item on the main part of the agenda, it's Riverside Manor.
Hi, good evening. My name is Peter Catazone. And I believe believe Mike Sheratou with me is on the line with me. I can't seem to turn on the camera.
I'm trying.
There we go. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So we were here for the Riverside Manor subdivision. We were here on January 26th. It's a cluster subdivision. At that meeting, there were some outstanding engineering comments. The public hearing was open and later closed. So we spent the month of February speaking with the town engineer, the planner, and building department to resolve some of those items, which we did. I'll share my screen just to go through it very, very quickly. So just starting at the first sheet here, we have 8 lots. Plus we've,
You're not seeing it, Peter. You're not sharing it.
oh, I'm sorry. I have to hit the final share. There we go. We have 8 lots. We also carved out a lot, which is required for recreation. That lot is along the Mamaroneck River, and there are some trails and other things there. So we think it is a usable piece of land for recreation. There is the parcel directly to the west is owned by Westchester Joint Waterworks. I thought I saw them on the call, and there could be access through there. Of course, we haven't discussed that with them in any way, shape, or form, but we just wanted to set aside that parcel. Next, we've updated the plans to show the proper diameter of the cul-de-sac and the proper roadway width, which is 26 feet for a road with a hydrant. We went ahead also and we showed locations of pools that are not part of this application, but we wanted to show that each lot could accommodate some future improvements. We also, on that first page, we set some limits with respect to pools and accessory structures. This is a cluster, so of course there's no real zoning, but we wanted to kind of put something in there, that the building inspector could have something to hang his or her hat on in the future when and if applicants come in for pools. Another item that came up was, again, the grading. We've actually regraded to accommodate the pools. Also, what we've done is we've really moved this conservation easement line up north, pretty far, which also acts to limit future development on those parcels. So we feel, and also there were some notes that were added about the lot, which is this out parcel between lots 1 and 2. That's an existing lot that's on well and septic. We added some notes that they have the right to utilize the roadway. They have the right to tie into all utilities on the roadway. At the meeting in January, we spoke about water and sewer, but of course there's going to be electric there, and that property could be, redeveloped in the future. So we just want to make sure that that parcel has all the privileges that the remainder of the lots do with respect to utilities. We've updated the plans. It's down in the details, but I'll just run through it if someone wants to see it, to reference the lights, the street lights that are the village standard street lights. The only difference between the street lights is that the street light sketch that we received was for a metal halide light. And nowadays everyone's using LEDs. They're more efficient. The bulbs last longer. And that's kind of the state of the, latest and greatest right now. And it's available in that exact style. So that's, this is the lighting photometric here. We've added another light closer to the entry as requested by the town engineer. And we have prepared a sketch showing fire trucks are able to turn left in, they're able to turn right out, and they're able to turn right in. So that was something that was requested by Rocco. That pretty much covers everything in this, going through the plans again, a couple minor things that, Mike, we discussed with Mike, but probably no one else will notice because, it's just utilities and no one cares about utilities as long as they're working. But we ended up switching the drainage from the south side of the road to the north side of the road. We just felt that was an easier path to get into this detention pond, which is, by the way, designed for the runoff, for the water quality and runoff mitigation for all the lots. All the stormwater is mitigated by this detention pond. So we ended up swapping the drainage and the water. The water was previously on the north. We moved it to the south. It cleaned up things a little bit, so we thought it was worthwhile investing the effort into. And unless there's any other questions, we'd like to move forward with your approval of this project.
Peter, yeah, thank you. Does anybody on the board have any questions or comments?
My only comment is thank you. You've working on this a long time and you took to heart a lot of all of the comments from the board and the staff. So, I think we all appreciate your efforts here.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's done a great job.
Yeah, Peter, from the original walk around your presentation tonight, thank you for all your effort.
Well, this team, the people who are on the call right now and the consultants, we're all part of this, getting to this point. So thank the board and thank the consultants. I feel the same way. The comments were really taken to heart, and I think we have a better project because of it. So thank you.
You're welcome. With that being said, let's have a motion to adopt the secret neg deck, please.
I'll move it, Joe.
I'll second it, Jeff.
All in favor? Roll call?
Aye.
Aye.
Oh,
Do we have a?
You want me to do a roll call? Yes. Noni
Do a roll
Reish,
call.
yes. Marshall Donat,
Yes.
Joe Stout,
Yes.
Chip Moreno,
yes.
Jeff Spano,
Yes.
Ethan Levinson,
Yes.
Chairman Heaslip.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, we need a motion to grant preliminary cluster subdivision plot approval.
I'll move that, Joe.
I'll second it, Jeff.
All in favor?
Aye.
Noni Reish,
Yes.
Marshall Donat,
Yes.
Joe Stout,
Yes.
Chip Moreno,
Yes.
Jeff Spano,
Yes.
Ethan Levinson,
Yes.
Chairman Heaslip.
Yes. Okay. Peter and Mike, good luck with the project.
Thank you
Before we
so
go-
much. Have a good night.
Before we go, Mr. Chairman, I just want to say thanks to everyone. And this project is really come a long way from what was previously approved. And if you look at both, you will see absolutely no relationship one to the other.
Yeah.
And the real winner here is the environment. Really, I'm proud of you. Thank you.
Good. Thank you and
Thank
good
you.
luck.
Thanks.
Okay, next application, Underhill Place. Anybody here from
Alright,
Underhill
hold
Place?
on one- Yep, I'm here. Hold on one second. I'm having a little technical difficulty. Here we go. Start video. I got two computers, so I'm working between. All right. Good evening, members of the board. Dan Collins, Hudson Engineering. Since our last meeting, let me pull it up.
Dan, you have to turn on your camera.
I'm on. I'm on two different computers. So one of my computers is on my video, but the other one doesn't have my camera on it. If that's a problem, I can keep going. I should be able to still share everything for you so you guys can see it. Hold on one second. Let me share it anyway. There you go. Share it. So basically, since our last meeting, we did receive the review memo from the town engineer. We've actually been working back and forth with them to address their concerns. Their comments are very relatively straightforward for this application. We did receive some comment from the neighbor regarding the location of the houses. And we've actually shifted them as little as we can, but we actually tried as much as we can to shift them as close to the center. So now instead of riding the side setbacks, we're actually riding the center setbacks offset of the center subdivision lot line. Aside from that, everything has pretty much remained unchanged. And as a result of tonight's meeting, we're looking forward to moving forward with the preliminary plat and scheduling the public hearing.
Have you dealt with the sidewalks, curbs, trees, all of that?
We're dealing with we're doing the sidewalks now as we speak. That'll be included in the next submission.
Okay, for the public hearing.
The thing is, that-
We'll see that for the public hearing.
let me just answer real quick, if you don't mind. So with the sidewalks, this would be the only house on the block, the only houses on the block that have a sidewalk. I'm not sure if you guys want to have a sidewalk. They said it's kind of up to, Mike just recommended sidewalks. I definitely do want to replace the curb, a new curb cut along the whole length of the property. But I just think that a sidewalk just on the front of these two properties is probably going to look a little weird, but it's up to the board. If you guys want me to put a sidewalk, I'll put it in, no problem. I think that it's going to look weird.
Okay, well, that's where we're trying to go on this. We're trying to get sidewalks all up and down the street. So we have to start somewhere.
Okay.
All right. So let's have a motion to, unless the board has any questions, let's have a motion to set the public hearing.
The public hearing would be for April 27th.
Okay,
I'll move, Chip.
I'll second it, Ethan.
okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Raise your hand. Aye.
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 All right, we will see you on April 27th and good luck in working through with the engineer on the final
Underhill Avenue, West Harrison.
comments that he gave you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
53 Halsted Avenue.
Good evening, members of the board. My screen share up.
Oh, it was almost coming on. It is, come look. Thank you. How'd you do that? Write that house down. Yeah. Okay, but then, yeah. That would be.
Marshall, you might want to mute.
Can everybody see my screen?
Yes.
Good evening, members of the board, Mr. Chairman, Mayor Kingsbury. I'm with the firm Lang Engineering, and I represent the owner, JP Realty Management, for the proposed 2 duplex condo buildings that has 4 units in each building at 53 Halsted.
Thank you for providing the rendering. We were actually looking for something more. And I think you had asked for a photo rendering, did you not? You're muted, Pat.
We have that, Mr. Chairman. We have a rendering of the building that we'll be providing.
Okay, you're working on that?
Yep, the architect's on, and he'll be showing the rendering of the building.
Is that the one that you included in the submission?
I believe the architect included that in the submission, correct?
Okay, so that's not what the board asked for. It was a photo rendering, so that rendering inserted into the photograph of the street.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so I'll have Steve discuss his rendering, and then hopefully he can provide the board with the photo rendering that you guys requested. I'll quickly go through, Mr. Chairman, just the changes we made to the site plan, and then we'll have the architect discuss the rendering of the building.
Right.
As you may recall from last month's meeting, the site is currently developed with a single-story beverage center and parking lot. We're proposed to demolish the existing building and remove the 2 curb cuts along Halsted Avenue. And there's an existing curb cut along Thatcher Avenue that we're utilizing for our common driveway. The changes that we made to the site plan is we're proposing a 6-foot-high fence along the southern property line to provide some screening for the adjacent residents. And that fence does continue along the southwestern corner of the property to provide some screening from the adjacent commercial property. We did improve our landscape plan from last time. We have screened as much as we could with trees along the southern and western property line corner, and then provided foundation plantings where we could. For the proposed lighting on site, we're showing garage mounted lights pointing down, and then we're going to have porch lights for each residential unit at their front door. Nothing will be in the rear or along Halsted Avenue site. Can everybody see the plan I just clicked to, the site plan that shows the common driveway, and across the street is the approximate location of the commercial driveway. Basically, based on the ITE trip generation, so transportation engineers trip generation manual, we believe that there's going to be less number of trips that the residents will see based on the peak times that the residential use and commercial use will be conducting. The residential use will be in the early mornings and evenings, and the commercial use will be during the day, roughly at 11 a.m. This will help with the traffic in the area. Right now, the existing building unloads and loads on Thatcher Avenue, so this will help now that the residentials won't have any unloading or loading on Thatcher Avenue. That's a quick summary of the site plan changes that we made. And at this time, I'll let the architect show the renderings of the building. Steve, are you on?
Can I go over top of you or do you have to get off? I don't know. You have to stop sharing before I can. Can anybody see that?
No.
No?
No.
Okay, hold on. Let's see, what do I do wrong here? How about now?
Yes. Yes, we can.
Okay. So this is the rendering of the building. We'll put it on the photo if that's what you require, but this would be the neighboring building to the right. And this is the building across the street to the left. And what we try to do is just, have some nice plantings, a couple of trees, just to give it a street feel for the entrance to the units. And then as you pull in off Thatcher and here, you'll see the back buildings with the same feel, residential feel. Try to keep in keeping with the neighborhood. I guess that's basically it. Unless any questions?
What's the parking situation? We don't see any guest parking.
The
Well,
park.
I was gonna say each unit has their own space, and then it'd be an additional 4, on site. In
Additional
addition,
4,
they'll be
additional 4
picking up.
what?
Excuse me?
Additional 4 what?
Additional 4 spaces. 12 is required. That's what we're providing.
Can you put that up, Steve? And show, I'm not gonna work on
Yeah.
finding it.
Hold on a second. No, that's not it. Okay, so each unit has a garage with their own space, and you have an additional 1, 2, 3, 4 spaces on site, which is the 12 required for 8 times 1.5 is 12.
Okay, but these are 3-bedroom, are they not?
Yeah.
Okay, so I know if you're correct, and this is according to the code, that's all you have to provide. It's difficult for us to not believe that some of these garages are not going to be used as parking. Okay, how are you going to require that? And then what happens with somebody has 3 bedrooms? Chances are, best case scenario, there's 2 cars. Worst case scenario, it's 3 and 4. Where do you park? From a practical standpoint, beyond the code, where do you park?
Well, I mean, there will be additional street parking because you're eliminating all the curb cuts on Halsted and Thatcher. So you're increasing that parking.
And I don't want to pull this out of you, Steve. Can you, I mean, we need for you to look at that, tell us where you're going to designate parking for, possibly 3-car units. Okay, and we know from experience that garages turn into things where people end up not pulling into the garages.
I understand that, but I can't control that.
No, but you can say to us something like what you did just now, but a little more demonstrative, a little more convincing, that you have other areas that you see that there's where people can park.
Okay, well, I mean, we could show that.
Okay. I think we're looking to see about how you, I guess there's going to be a school impact here with these three bedrooms. These are going to be families that are going to be living here. So we're going to have to ask you to do a school impact analysis.
Okay.
And you also should discuss with us your open space. Have you met the requirement for open space?
Yeah, what we have is, we have an area here, which would be 20 by 55 for 1,100 square foot open area. And then each unit has additional space for each unit. Basically 100 square feet on these 4 units, and approximately like 400 square feet for each of these units.
So is
So
this the zoning analysis over here?
Yeah.
You want to, can you increase the
Yeah, let me
size?
see if I can, yeah, I gotta try to figure out how to do that.
Yeah.
Okay, hold on a second. Okay, there we go.
Okay.
Okay, so the single open space is 1,100 square feet, which is that.
Yes, okay. That's the area you initially showed us on the right-hand
Right.
corner.
Right here.
Yeah.
And then the units 1 to 4, which are the back 4 units, each have a 20 by 20 area, which is 400 square feet, so it's another 1,600 square feet. And the front units have 100 square feet, which is another 300, for a total of 3,140 square feet.
Okay, so and you're only required for to do
1,600.
1,600, so you're double, almost doubling that.
Right.
Okay. Okay.
And, to me, being the parks guy, I can't believe I'm gonna ask you this, but can some of that, since you have double the open space, can some of that be used for guest parking in a different way, or no? This parking is really.
Well, there's
an
parking
issue
in front of this here, so it really can't
Where are you, Stephen?
get
I
into
can't see
here.
it. I can't
And
see
it's
your-
all behind the building, so you really can't get to
use
it.
it. Yeah, okay.
I mean, we might, you could possibly get an additional space here, but then you're gonna lose the open space for those units. For one space.
Well, it's nice to have additional open space, certainly for
Yeah,
the residents, but we also have a parking issue, so. Or we think potentially we have a parking issue.
What might be helpful is to, what does the parking look like on that street now, on Thatcher? And Halsted at night, right? After work hours, what does it look like? I know people aren't parking on, well, my video says, people aren't parking on, in front of the beverage center at the moment, but how many cars will that be, and what does it look like at night? In my mind's eye, there's cars parked from the building across Thatcher, right to the corner down the hill. And on the other side of Thatcher, going towards, what is that? Going towards the railroad tracks, there's cars on both sides of that street too. I don't know how much there's on the other side of Thatcher, but that would be helpful for me to look at what that parking scenario looks like today.
Okay, we could do that.
Okay. Anybody have any other questions or comments for the applicant?
You're basically.
How many parking spaces will be gotten on Halsted Avenue, which now is a long driveway, no parking?
I think there's one spot in the center right now. So
Oh,
I would say
okay.
you're gonna pick up probably at least 3
Okay,
on top of
Great.
what's there.
thanks.
Oh, so that's an interesting point that Joe brings up is if you could do a nighttime analysis, pick a few days, different nights, and let us know what's going on in Thatcher. And if you pick it up, if there's going to be 4 spots right in front of the building that you think could be utilized for guest and overflow or whatever, and you also have some on Thatcher, that would probably put me a little bit at ease that, there's not going to be, we're not going to be impacting on the neighborhood terrifically because of this. Because what do you have? You have the commercial, on either side of you have commercial entities, right?
Correct.
So that's what Eric was pointing out earlier, that those at night, there's not going to be any cars there wanting to utilize street parking. And maybe on Thatcher, I don't know what the folks do on Thatcher, and then as you turn the corner on Fremont, but maybe you could do a little bit of a study for us on that and report back to us on that.
Okay.
Yeah, and Steve, is there room to park a car in front of the garage? Or no, you're either in the garage or you're on the street?
Yeah, just in the garage, because then you're in the driveway.
Then you're in the
basically.
driveway, right? So you're not in the garage, you're out on the street.
Right.
Yeah, parking's going to be an issue.
It's an issue.
Yeah. Because what are you providing, Steve? You're providing 1 spot per unit
And then 4 additionals.
and the 4 additional.
Right.
So you're fairly deficient from our standpoint as planners, figuring out how you're going to maintain these 3-bedroom units are definitely going to have at least 2 cars. You're not in the TOD downtown where you could say to us 1 would be sufficient, and we could probably buy it because people would walk to the train. I don't think that's happening here, not with 3 bedrooms. So you'll have to do the parking analysis, a little parking study for us. Please do a school impact study. Anything else, folks?
Yeah, just, Eric, I know you said the traffic analysis, but can you, I'm sorry if it's not in my package, I didn't see it, but can you give us a little bit more detail on how you came up with how many trips are generated when on that? So I get it's it's the impact on Thatcher. It's not to me it's not the impact on Halsted, because the beverage center was open and there were a lot of cars that went in out the front of Halsted Avenue. It's more the impact on Thatcher Avenue that's going to happen now with those with the traffic, because even if there was loading on the backside, that wasn't as many cars that are going to come in and out of this parking at his driveway now as there was before.
That's correct. So basically, for this traffic analysis, what the traffic engineers use is the trip generation manual that basically has a defined type of use, and that defined type of use has a range of trip generations based on your area that we're in. So a suburban urban area will have X amount of uses that a commercial will see, and the commercial's peak use is roughly around 11 a.m. around lunchtime, and then for residential use, they see early morning from 5, 6, 7 a.m. is when everyone leaves to go to work, and then in the evening commute, which is 4, 5, 6, 7, is when they see more heavily uses for residential use.
How many cars did you use for your analysis? Did you use 12?
No, it's based on a category where you have, this is for like a small, the way that this falls into place, like a small apartment complex that would have just it's a little bit more than what we show of just 8 units here, but it's the closest, the best fit category that would define our site, is how we compare the two. And
Did you provide that for us?
I provided in our comment response letter, I just provided a written response to one of the special use permit questions.
Can you provide the actual data?
We could provide that data for us, no problem.
And do you know what the traffic counts are on Thatcher today?
We haven't compiled a traffic study for Thatcher or Halsted Avenue. We just looked at the number of trips generated by the commercial establishment and by our proposed use.
You might maybe want to think about that.
We could provide that information for you.
And is there any blasting? Do you know?
At this time, I can't speak for the type of how he's removing rock. I believe the owner was anticipated chipping, but he'll comply with the building department's requirements for chipping, for noise monitoring, and for blasting. Any requirements that the building department may have will be in compliance.
Lisa, are they on slab or basements?
Basements.
Basements?
Yeah.
Full basements?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, it's basically, the first floor is about 3 feet out of the ground, so 5 feet in the ground thereabouts.
Okay. But I mean, it's open, usable space. 8 foot height, ceiling height, 9 foot ceiling height.
Yeah,
Something
8 foot
like that.
at
8
best,
foot.
yeah.
Okay. And you're gonna have it's just staircase coming from the first floor down to the basement.
Right.
Okay.
Tom, you can see on the site plan that's up now, we have stairs going up to all the units right now.
Yes.
Yep.
Right. Okay.
Steve, would it be possible also to get a photo simulation looking at the buildings from Thatcher?
Yeah, I think so.
I'd like to see how that looks from that side.
Okay, well, it's kind of on an angle, but the other.
Right.
Let's see if I can find another one to get to it. Let's see. Yeah, I mean, this is, like I said, it's on an angle, but this is kind of what you're getting here.
Yeah. If there's any way.
But yeah, we could do it a more head-on view.
Yeah, kind of what the visual would be if you were looking into
this
Down
down the
the
driveway.
driveway?
down the
Yeah.
driveway.
Is there only one house behind it, Steve? Or is there another house behind that commercial building on the corner? That abuts the property?
This corner here?
The one on, is there a house on West Street that abuts the back of the property or no?
On West Street? No.
Yeah, no? So it's
No,
only
I think there's two behind it on Fremont. And there's an office building to the right here.
yeah, that part I got. So there's one directly behind you on Thatcher, and then you think there's two on Fremont?
There's, I think there's two houses on Fremont behind us.
Oh, there's not one that faces Thatcher? Look behind?
I think on the other side of the street, next to this building, there's a house.
No, there's a house. There's not a house
Yeah,
on
I
the
think
corner
it
of
sits
Thatcher.
up high, doesn't it?
Yeah, there's a house on the corner of Thatcher and Fremont.
Right.
Yeah, that's
Big
behind-
house.
Huh?
Old house.
Yeah, it's the stone house, right?
Right.
It's up
sits
high.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That faces Fremont? I always thought it
Yeah.
faced Thatcher. Okay.
I think it faces Fremont.
It's on the corner.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, right on the corner.
Yeah. So those are the two.
That's
Those are
stone
the two
house.
houses
Yep.
Yep.
that would be impacted. Okay.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
So we'll wait to get your studies.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the board for your time.
Thank you, Eric.
Everyone
Thank
have
you,
a good day.
Steve.
You got it.
Thanks, guys.
Okay, next application is Dunkin' Donuts.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the planning board. Taylor Palmer with the law firm of Cuddy and Fader on behalf of the applicant this evening. Tonight, I am joined by our project architect, Chris Raffaelli of Studio Architecture, as well as our traffic consultant, John Canning of Kimley Horn, and our project engineer, Joe Tremelli of Kellard Sessions. I'm also joined by the applicant and the property owner, Brad Phillips, and as well as the operators of the Dunkin' Donuts existing on the property today, Peter Marinan and Peter Brooks. As the chairman mentioned, we are on before your board this evening in connection with continued review of our application for an amended site plan to replace the existing Dunkin' restaurant building on the premises with a new Dunkin' restaurant and drive-through situated closer to Halsted Avenue. Since our last appearance at your February 23rd meeting, the applicant's been working with the town/village staff to address comments from the board at its February meeting and in response to the comments from Mr. Cleary's consulting memorandum dated February 23rd, as well as into response to the county planning's comments that we got on March 3rd. We provided specific responses to comments to this board in our March 9th transmittal, which included some updates to our traffic, parking, and drive-through queuing analysis that Kimley Horn also provided an annotated responses to comments memo from our last appearance. We are also in receipt of the comment letter most recently received from Mazer Consulting. We understand it's the Town Villages consultant for the traffic component dated March 22nd, and Mr. Amodio's letter dated March 19th. And of course, we will prepare written supplemental responses to those particular comments. While the public hearing hasn't been set on this matter at this time, we have received correspondence from the owners of the adjoining property, and we continue to be in discussions with the neighboring property owners, and will continue to do so as this project moves forward. So, Mr. Chairman, we have provided a written response to comments memorandum that is available for the board's review. I'm happy to either summarize those comments, or at this time I would turn directly to Mr. Canning, who can go through high level some of the summary details of his more detailed response to comments that really relate to the traffic, the queuing, and the parking on the site.
Before you do that, Taylor, you did mention that or maybe that's what you meant when you said you were talking with the neighbor, but Minskoff Grant Realty sent us a letter.
Yes, Chairman.
You got that, right?
We received that letter, correct.
Okay. So what do you, I mean, this is a fairly serious comment that, your plan, it kind of hinges on having that width, and they're saying that the width is not there.
We will provide a more formal response to that, but we are currently speaking with the adjoining property owners about how to address that comment. Again, the width of the roadway there is much wider than 15 feet, but we will again provide a more full update to the board. Again, we are actively in discussions with Minskoff at this time regarding that access, but that by no means, we expect to hopefully be able to resolve that issue amicably, and we are in communication with them at this time.
Did you also see the letter from the county?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, and we did incorporate comments into our March 9th letter that specifically respond to those comments, including their comments regarding the relocation of the building, which we identify as more in alignment with the post office and the existing CVS buildings, as well as their comments regarding the county road and the stormwater management. So we did incorporate those into our written responses.
Okay, just want to put it in the record.
Thank you.
Thank you, Taylor. Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My apologies. I've been struggling to get my camera here working, and unfortunately, I have failed. We did provide you with some supplemental information. I want to make sure that you got it and had a chance to look at it. In particular, the board asked for some video footage of Halsted Avenue at the site so you could see what it was like. We recorded 1 hour in the morning rush hour and 1 hour in the afternoon rush hour. And we sent it around in a link, and that may not have been successful. And then we provided it to your clerk directly, and I believe she was able to upload it. I hope you were able to look at it. It's not very exciting, but we did provide it, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have on it. We also provided a video simulation based on future conditions with the drive-through and with the left turn prohibited out of the site, because obviously we are listening to you and understand that that will improve traffic flow. So that also was a big file, not very exciting to watch. And I'll answer any questions you may have on that also.
John, is it possible to show that to us? I for one, I could not open that future.
Let me see if I can do that.
Because that was a huge file.
I know.
And just, while you're trying to do that, the issue with the width of the driveway coming in is actually pretty substantial. Even if you work something out with Minskoff, which I'm sure you can, you're making a left turn off of Halsted Avenue there into now a two-lane driveway that could have I would hope some kind of physical barrier there.
If I may, Mr. Stout, the comment is specific to, they're talking about meets and bounds associated with the easement agreement. We have provided that in our submission to the board. So the easement is on file, and the details that are contained in it with respect to what rights CVS and or the property or Minskoff have to it is different. So they're just making sure and confirming that there's adequate passage there. Again, we'll make sure that's addressed, but we are not putting a barrier between or proposing a barrier between those two lanes. So we're really widening the details there. And again, we just received Mazer's comments, so we will also be putting those into a supplemental. So we're a little bit premature on those issues, just because it's, we're trying to coordinate with the adjoining property owner. But again, it's not so much a issue of entering the site as going through the details that are provided in that easement, getting clarification there. But we'll be sure to put that together, and we can certainly speak with Town Village Council regarding same as well.
Okay. So I'm just curious to know what you guys can see now.
It looks like a video game.
Okay. So I'm trying to see how to get it on the whole screen. Hold on, let me see if I can do that. That's a little better. So basically, if you can see my cursor, this is Halsted Avenue. From left to right, this is Harrison Avenue. The train station is over here. You can see the cursor, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. The existing Dunkin' Donuts is here, or Dunkin'. So the inbound lanes, you've got one through and one left. And then you can go into the back to the parking area. You can go back to CVS. You can come around. You can come out. And we have set up an approximation of the drive-through here. And so you can see in the morning, you get a big buildup of traffic at the light. But you'll see, and this is based on our projected future traffic volumes. It's at real-time speed. And while there is activity here, there's not, it's not like a constant flow in and out. Now, I'm going to move it forward, because in my memo, I said about a third of the way through, and I hope I can do this without blowing everything up. Okay, so you can now see we've got a car at the order window or mock order window, a car at the order board, another car behind it, and traffic is continuing to flow freely when the light turns green, and then it stops and builds up. I'm in agreement with you, and I think your traffic engineer is as well, that prohibiting left turns out of here is an improvement for the whole situation for a number of reasons. It takes time to get out of here. You're turning into a congested area, so just making people go right and sending them out of the area is the best thing for the whole site, and it will improve the operation. I'd also like to point out with having, there will not be a barrier here, and with having vehicles in the queue, we now have 2 lanes coming in, and we're taking the cars that used to go and park, or a lot of the cars that used to go and park, we're taking them out of the parking area and just confining them to around the building. So there'll be actually less activity back here. And this is about as busy as it gets. We can watch it for as long as you want. Hopefully, if you can try again, you can watch it at another time.
This is the morning, John, or the evening?
This is the morning. And the morning is the busiest time, probably twice as busy as the evening from the queuing perspective. From the traffic on the street perspective, the evening's probably 2 or 3%, maybe 5% busier. But definitely for the coffee business, the morning is where it's at.
Did any consideration at all, and I don't know whether there's franchise requirements of making the building smaller so that you could get a pull off, or you know, in case an order was wrong or something happens before you have to get out of the line, or does the building have to be a certain size?
Yeah, that's not something I've discussed with the client yet, but you know, we're listening to everything you say, and when we're done with this meeting, we'll take your comments from tonight along with the comments of your traffic consultant, consider them and come back to you with a response.
And we also did incorporate into our supplemental submission a diagram that highlights the vehicles coming out of the site, making a right turn onto King Street, and then right turn back into the site. We did receive comments, I believe, from the town engineer on some of the details here, as well as Mazer. So we will work those in, but we did provide a diagram based on our conversation at the last meeting, just sort of showing one of the options that does exist here for site operations as far as channeling a misorder around the property.
Correct. That was something that you had specifically requested.
John, there's a couple things that seem amiss to me.
Yep.
One is the crosswalk between the Duncan site and the other side of Halsted Avenue does not appear on this drawing.
That's correct.
And the simulation. And also behind the post office and the Bruce Chung's off of King Street, you have a 2-way road.
Yep. So
I'd be hard pressed to agree with you that that's a 2-way road.
Well, I'll agree with you. Let's agree to disagree on this contention.
Oh, no, I'm going to just disagree with you. I'm not going to agree to disagree. I'm disagreeing.
So maybe you need to rephrase that, Mr. Chairman. It's not a 2-lane road. It's a 2-way road.
It's a 1-lane 2-way road.
Okay, we just had an earlier application where it was the width of the road. It's still two-way, but there's only one car that can fit down.
That's right.
Correct.
Depends on which way you go.
I share your comment, and we brought up the same in discussing with Mr. Canning, but we look back at, this is, visually we're looking at the video game, but it's kind of like a Nintendo 64 and maybe not, whatever the current PlayStation is, PlayStation 12, whatever we're up to. So it's trying to put into play really the motions and the way that cars can go, not necessarily the lanes, just because that's how this model functions. So it's identifying the conditions in the field that vehicles are able to go in those different directions in those locations. But for example, the island shape of the Duncan is not necessarily representative of the site operation, but that's just how they can function it to fit these details in on.
Yeah, I get it. But I'm downtown every Saturday between 10 and 12. Okay. And the traffic, the queues from the intersection of Harrison and Halsted, the queue goes all the way past King Street on many occasions. And I want to make it perfectly clear that what we're seeing now is not typical of the downtown during the morning hours. It's not typical on a Saturday. Might be on a Sunday, I don't know. But certainly on a Saturday for a good 2 or 3 hour period of time, the queue goes all the way back. And I'm not sure how that analysis is going to come into play with this. Sidewalk, the crosswalk complicates that queue, obviously, because there's people crossing over on a continual basis to get across the street and going the other way, going over to Duncan from the other side of Halsted. So it's not as, John, it's not as open and free flowing as it's being depicted now.
Okay, I hear what you're saying, Mr. Chairman. And I do understand about the crosswalk. It's something that we're going to look at and get back to you on.
Okay. Yep.
Okay.
Also, I appreciate, Taylor, that you're taking all of the comments that we've written and otherwise from all the staff, and you're going to be responding to those at a later point.
Absolutely. Yeah, we want to make sure we can try and address what we can, this evening. And if there are more comments that we can incorporate, we certainly will. John, I don't know if you had more specific summarization characterizations, including, the additional work you did on the field. I know you mounted a camera up on a windy pole or whatever it was to kind of get more, real-time footage of what's happening in the field. But if there are any other comments there, otherwise I'll turn to some of our more responses and certainly turn to the board for additional feedback at this time. And of course, we do have our architect and engineer, if there's specifics from Mr. Amodio or Mr. Cleary on those fronts, or Mazer if they're available this evening for comment.
So Taylor, yes, we did provide the video. I'm not sure if the board members were able to review it. I hope they were. It was equally as exciting as the video I just showed you. I could try and dig around for it if you wanted, if you haven't seen it. You pass? Okay, great.
I watched it.
Okay, good. We did receive the comments from your consultant. A lot of the issues you already brought up. There are some new ones. There are a couple of items that we would like some input or clarification from the board, because we want to make sure that we don't miss something or something was sort of left open. One of them was, should a Saturday analysis be provided? I was about to say that if we can get this, if we can convince you that this works during the peak coffee hour on a weekday morning, it'll work on a Saturday. But from the chairman's comments, I suspect that you would like a Saturday analysis of the traffic study. But, we didn't want to make a decision on our part and then regret it. So if this board could, think about it for a minute and think whether they are more concerned about operating conditions on a Saturday than they are on a commuter morning for the new drive-through.
I don't think we're going to make a distinction, John. I think we're concerned about every day.
Okay, so I'm hearing that as to provide a Saturday analysis as well.
I think the problem on Saturday is as opposed to during the week, is that there's more through traffic, and on a Saturday there's cars parked everywhere and people crossing up at the pizzeria, and then down by the Dunkin' Donuts, and then down on Halsted Avenue. And with the karate store and people going to the post office, it's just more cars stopped down there.
Gotcha.
As opposed to rush hour.
And the other thing about Saturday morning is you have a Taekwondo for, a lot of the children are going to classes, and also at the music school across the street, or the music classes, and there just seems to be a little bit more family traffic.
I hear you. It's busier on the street, basically.
Yeah.
Thank you. There was another question regarding the vicinity development. When you do a traffic study, you account for your traffic, but you also account for background traffic and for other projects in the area. So we did include traffic from, let me get this right, from Avalon, from the Playhouse Lofts, and from the Salazzo Recreation Center. And we said that the traffic from the two projects on Calvert Street, basically it was it's 12 Nelson, which is also Calvert, I think. And then the other big one that's going on Calvert, we said that traffic on this section of the roadway will be very minor, because it's on the opposite side of the tracks, and you'll either go to the north and go down Harrison, or go to the south and go down Broadway, and you'll kind of mostly miss this area. So we got that information from your consultant, and then your traffic consultant said, just make sure you've got all of the other developments in the area. So after this meeting, if Mr. Cleary and Mr. Greeley can just, check with each other and make sure that they're comfortable, and I'll send them the list of the projects we have. We want to make
There's a couple more, John, so I'll coordinate with you.
Super. Thank you, Pat.
John, keep in mind that the Avalon is just not an apartment building. It also is has a substantial retail component to it.
Oh, yes, understood.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, so I wanted to make sure that I've got everything. Now my computer's going slow because I've got too many applications open, but I think I've hit the major points. What have I missed, Taylor? I sent you an email earlier.
Yep, I'm pulling it up as we speak. So I think as far as our other comments, we had asked, we'd asked, I think, John, you kind of just mentioned it, but we'd ask if Mazer had any other considerations about what other sites we could look at.
Oh, that was it. Thank you. Yes. So one of the issues that you asked us was, can you find another location that's similar to this? Because we brought you a 411 Main Street in Stamford, which we felt was reasonably comparable. It's on a 2-lane roadway. It had the same sort of setup. And it was in a commercial neighborhood. And so we went and I looked at all over the county, and I couldn't find a place that was close to a station in a downtown area that already had a drive-through that was on a 2-lane road that I felt would be a good comparison. And rather than pick something and then bring it back to you and have you guys say, well, that was a good try, but we don't think it's quite right. We really would like if you could help us figure out a place to survey so that we can bring back data that you guys would feel comfortable with. So I'm not sure if you can help us in that regard, but we wanted to do at least bring it to your attention before we try and do something.
And again, I don't know if Mazer is available this evening, but we can certainly, if appropriate, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, we would reach out to, or have our traffic consultant reach out directly to Mazer on that front. And of course, as mentioned, we're going to be addressing their comments.
Yep. Thank you, Taylor.
John, feel free to touch base with Phil Greeley.
Okay, I will. Thank you. So I think those were the highlights from me, from what we've done from the last time, and we have some new information to provide to you. But if there's anything else that you need at this point, speak now or hold your peace until the next meeting, I guess.
Yes, I have a question.
Yes, Mr. Dunn.
Thank you. Since today there's not a drive-through.
Correct.
What was the basis or for the expected number of vehicles that would be using the drive-through?
Yep, excellent question. So basically, the Institute of Transportation Engineers is a professional organization, and they get surveys from driveways for various types of buildings and land uses, and they compile them into their various groups. So you have residential and office and schools, and then you get into the retail, and you've got coffee stores with drive-throughs and coffee stores without drive-throughs. So we compared a 1,200 square foot coffee store with without a drive-through, which is what is there now, to a 1,400 square foot coffee store with a drive-through, which is what is proposed. And we took the difference, and that was the additional trips that we added on to what is there already. And Mr. Greeley reviewed that, your consultant, and he said it was representative in his opinion.
But from my perspective, it's not the size of the shop. For example, a 1,200 square foot shop in upstate New York with a small population is not the same as a similar size shop in a population of 26,000 in Harrison, et cetera.
Yeah. So, well, we do have the benefit of this. We did a survey of the one in Stamford. So we used that data as well. And we also have the benefit that the existing store is comparable to what the ITE says. So we folded all of that into our calculations. I'll try and provide some more information on that for you, Mr. Donat, so that you can review it and feel comfortable with it.
And the
Yeah,
operators.
The number of vehicles that were blue that were turning into the drive-through looked like not very many, and if there were more, the backup on the Halsted Avenue could be much more than what I think I saw.
Right.
In the video.
Well, isn't the idea, unless I'm getting it wrong, is to encourage the drive-through? Isn't that Duncan's thrust here, is to encourage the drive-through? So you're hoping that you would have, the queue would be full. I mean, you want to make money, so you want the drive-through, order, pick up and go.
Well, I mean, in an ideal world, you would not have a queue at a drive-through and you'd still make money because you want people to come in and go, oh, there's nobody at the queue. Let me just pop in for coffee. They're served and they're gone. We don't live in an ideal world. So you sometimes get a queue, you move it as fast as you can so you can get people out so you can get more people in.
Okay, well, some of the board members have visited the Stanford site multiple times. So
Good.
maybe they want to comment on that.
Yeah, if I could just jump on that. It's more of an operational issue than a logistical issue. So since you use the Stanford site as a comp, I went up and visited it. So I went up on February 27th, which was a Saturday.
Yep.
At 11:30.
Yep.
It took me 13 minutes to get in and out, and I had ordered previously using the app. I believe last month you had mentioned that you were looking for like 2-minute turnarounds and you were going to have things called line busters with people coming out with iPads.
Yeah.
There was none of that up there. So I went back March 1st at 8:30, which was a Monday, and it took me 12 minutes. I went back March 10th, which was a Wednesday at 8:30. It took 5 minutes to make the left-hand turn to get in, and then another 9 minutes for a combined 14 minutes. Went back on Tuesday, March 16th at 4 o'clock. I figured I'd try the afternoon shift. That took 8 minutes. That was better. And then one of the other board members went up on Sunday and said he didn't have any problems. I went up past Sunday at 2:50, and there was only 3 people in the line. So I'm like, oh, this should not be a problem. But it was. One of the women left the ordering window and then pulled out. Somebody must have spoken to her, so she backed up. Then we all had to back up. So that was a total of 16 minutes. So if that happens in Harrison, I think we've got big problems.
And we appreciate that. And I think part of that too is while we're showing representative of, sort of the operation of the circulation, it's all about, it really comes down to management and putting into the actual design and functioning of the building, which Mr. Marin and, who's on the call today, and the management operations, I don't know that we know much of who is operating that store. And that really is what controls. Just because Dunkin' has one means to try and help its consultants doesn't mean that what applies in Kentucky applies here in Harrison. So I think importantly, Mr. Marin, who's on the call today, hears these comments and is incorporating them into design. So we're not just employing 1, 2, or 3 mechanisms, but we also have the ability, this site is different. That the site does have the ability for the 2 lanes that we're talking about. It does have the ability to circulate around, or to come out of the queue. There's parking areas behind, and there's a number of ways to access this property combined with the shared, usage of the CVS parking spaces and users that may be going to that site. So I think operationally, we're trying to work that into the design, and I can't speak for their, the Stanford approvals and whether it had any types of conditions that incorporated these line busting or other techniques. But it certainly, we appreciate those comments. And Mr. Marin, I don't know if you want to have some input here on the operational capacity, but we'll certainly work, try and emphasize how those will function. I know Mazer did incorporate that into their letter, asking for more details on how those systems will work here in Harrison.
If I could just clarify, so you do not operate the one in Stanford?
That is correct. So, and actually, Chairman, members of the board, thanks for the opportunity to chat real quick. Very astute findings, Mr. Morano. I'm sorry, I can't read.
Morano.
Sorry, the screen is very small, so I can't read the names. That is not one of our locations. I had mentioned on our last call that we operate over 35 drive-through restaurants in the southern part of the United States. We're really keen on the drive-through operation. The operators in Stanford I can't speak to. I don't know what their operational capacity is and how they're operating that particular location. Further, the line busting and some of these other efficiency driving technology implementations are not required by the brand. There are things that I think are important and things that my organization implements to be able to be more efficient, to drive greater throughput, and to be significantly more efficient, not only for consumers, but also our operation.
And you run 35 drive-throughs.
Correct. Yep.
Yeah,
Would note that If
Unfortunately, I just
ownership,
thought that you did operate that. That's why I used it as a comp because, I mean, it was not
No,
a
I think,
great comp. It didn't turn out well, as I,
I think what Mr. Canning was trying to do simply from a physical standpoint or a physical location standpoint, try to find comparable pieces of property that have comparable traffic flows and space or spatial considerations.
Where's your
No.
closest one, Mr. Maron?
The closest one, actually, the closest one is under construction right now in Yonkers. I
The
welcome
one
all,
in operation,
in operation would be in South Carolina.
South Carolina. So you don't have any experience in New York?
We have
Off the
35 stores in New York, so I would suggest that we have some degree of experience in operating for 15 to 20 years.
But you just, what am I missing? You just told me that your closest drive-through that you operate is in South Carolina.
So I'm not sure that I heard your question properly.
Where is your closest? Because we felt that we thought we were told that Stanford was one of yours. That's why we focused on it. Okay, now you're saying it's not. So it's an easy way for you to say to us, we don't operate it, we do a better job. So that's fine. We don't want to disagree with you. You probably do a better job. So, but where's your closest drive-through? You just said South Carolina.
Correct. And then I believe, Chairman, you said you have no experience. So I was refuting the fact that we have plenty of experience and we operate 35.
No, I said in New York State.
with the drive-through.
With the
With the
drive.
drive-through.
They have
Sorry,
30 plus reps. Yeah, right.
I'm not a lawyer, so Taylor would do a better job
Yeah,
presenting my
let me try and unpack this. Let's play the blame the John game, but it's
Where
not
can
John.
we go to watch your operation?
Right, right. So for a drive-through
Without getting on
purpose,
a plane.
it would be, right, for a drive-through purpose, it's not, we're currently, I believe Peter can confirm, the operation is being brought online in Yonkers right now, but I don't know that it's functioning currently. So unfortunately, it's not completely built. We do have pictures of the current store and it's in developing state, but it is not yet ready for driving through. The other restaurants that are in the portfolio that have the drive-through are the closest is in South Carolina. North Carolina?
I got that. I
So
got that whole
this
thing.
time,
You
there's
didn't
no
say that.
representative
I got all
drive
of that.
this. So the shift here is because of the pandemic and all of the other,
Well, what we
components.
want to do, okay, is we want to believe Peter.
Right.
And he says, we do a better job, okay?
If
But
I-
we can't
Right.
get that experience right now.
If I may, Mr. Chairman, I think what's helpful here with, and Peter's experience and his company's experience, while it is, again, it's a sort of a universal, they have a number of other brands that they work with through drive-throughs as well as Dunkin'. I think what's important here is that they're not saying what works in Yonkers works in Harrison, what works elsewhere works, in Harrison. It's a combined knowledge of what doesn't work in one place, how they addressed it there, and how those same processes will work here in Harrison. More importantly, to incorporate and put on the table all of these options, the line busting, the ability to get out, in the field, and other site operation constraints that we're making sure we're addressing and putting it together. So I think, I know Peter can speak for himself to that aspect. We do apologize for any not lack of clarity with respect to the Dunkin' in Stanford not being a site owned by by Mr. Marinan, but rather just a functionally operational a site that had similar characteristics to a downtown and similar uses to the town village of Harrison. And that was in response to Mr. Cleary's comment just about finding representative stores, which goes back to Mr. Canning's comment earlier tonight about please help us help you see other stores, unlike Mr. Morano's experience, where you'd like us to look at downtowns that would have, again, these operations. But at the end of the day, how another store operates is not representative necessarily of how this location will be. So our site and what we're doing on site, will really incorporate a number of mechanisms to further address any issues. And Mr. Marin's experience can be, instrumental in making sure those function here, whether it's the cameras, the line busting, and site conditions.
So Taylor or Mr. Mariner, do you have a site in one of your other 35? It's Joe Stout. One of your 35 other drive-throughs anywhere in the country that are situated similarly to what the site in Harrison looks like, that you have these other cameras and line busters and technologies in place that you could videotape at the peak times?
Actually, I think we provided at least some pictorial representations of some of the stores in South Carolina to give the board a flavor as to the type of the things that we install to provide the crew view into the queue as to whether or not we need to deploy people differently within the store. So yeah, I think we would be able to provide some additional color to that if that were beneficial to the board.
Well, I mean, to echo the chairman's, other than getting on a plane, that that would be the best.
Right.
Unless you want to send us to South Carolina.
I'm here now. I'm here now. Come join. Come. Weather's lovely.
When is the store in Yonkers coming online?
We are hopeful that we will be open serving guests right around tax day, so the 15th of April.
So here's the thought.
So what's the address of that location?
It's 987 Central Park Avenue.
So here's the thought I want to just throw in there. Mr. Marinan
Yes, sir.
and Mr. Palmer, I can accept that you're terrific operators, but our responsibility is not just the near term, but the long term. And should you no longer operate this property, all of those assumptions, can go up. If the Stanford owner picks up your store, we're looking at a different situation than what you're suggesting. So.
Indeed, and these operations, similar with hours of operation, are all are details that can be incorporated, into the approval related to the project. So we know we're early in the review. We have a lot to unpack with Mazer in their most recent correspondence. But these are helpful comments for us to be able to incorporate in, and we'll distinguish the Stanford store and then tie it back here. But we certainly appreciate that. And look forward to again providing additional clarity on
The other thing is, does the line busting work in inclement weather, snow and rain, and do they go out there with their iPads?
Believe it or not, yeah, they do.
Really? Is it?
Yeah, there's a whole special wardrobe that I have to supply for the team members. Obviously when it's cold, there's logoed parkas and gloves that have the special fingers so you can use the iPads and all that.
Okay. Well, I think you have some work to do. And we're looking forward to seeing what you come up with.
And if
Any other comments? Anybody on the board?
I just have one other question, which is kind of random. You don't have any in Florida, do you? Because I'm going to be down there this weekend, since a lot of your stores seem to be in the South. I'd go with drive through one.
We do not have any in Florida. If anybody has a child that is a student at Clemson University, I encourage you to speak to them about their experiences at our store right outside the campus.
Almost. Okay.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, we'd asked, and at this time, given that we are, again, we're updating the traffic report, but we have a pretty deeply developed application and complete application, if I may, would the board be comfortable with setting the public hearing for this matter at this juncture? Again, it's a type 2 action under seeker. The county comments have already been referred and provided in relation to the application, but just one question, if the board is considered setting the public hearing for its April agenda for this matter.
I don't think so. I think we've got a ways to go before we're going to get to invite the public in.
This is Brad Phillips. I'm the owner of the property. I just want to add a couple of pieces here, since I've been silent, and that's tough for me. So thank you for listening.
Brad, yeah, excuse me. This is not a public hearing, so.
Brad is the owner, Mr. Chairman. Brad is the owner. Okay.
He's what?
He's the owner applicant for the project.
Yeah.
Oh, he's an applicant?
Yes, he's the applicant. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, fine. Go ahead, Brad.
It's my property. I just want to say one thing. My wife grew up right around the corner, and I've been going to the area for 30 years. And what's lost in the shuffle a little bit here of the paperwork and the feedback, and everybody knows, is it's a tight downtown. We get it. The view that I have that's lost a little bit in translation here is that we're going to make a more efficient store and flow, where we've all been to that lot. The lot is what it is. And our feeling, again, which is lost, is we're going to be taking 10 cars out of the flow that are going to be hunting for a parking spot next to the CVS, trying to drive around in the rain, et cetera, et cetera. I've been there a million times. And our feeling is we're going to be driving it into a more cohesive and efficient flow, which is actually going to help. And again, no one's actually stressed that comment. So I'd like to stress that comment. And again, everyone can push back and we'll push back in different ways. But, you know, we're going through this process because that's obviously how we feel here. So I just wanted to add that into the flow because it seems to be lost in the in between.
It's a good comment. Good comment, Brad. And the one of the best parts of the thing is you said the process. Okay, the process sometimes seems like it's leaning against the applicant, but lots of times it's really not. It's we're trying to get as much information out there as we possibly can in order to render a decision and maybe help the application become a better application. So
Understand 100%. I'm in real estate. I get it 100%. Thank you for listening.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Brad, and thank you, Mr. Chairman. And while we have the board available to us, we'd ask sort of one just sort of additional question unrelated to the traffic piece here, so that we can try and coordinate the same for the board's review. We did note that we are looking to harmonize the proposed building with, you know, between the we'll call it Harrison Brick and the U.S. Post Office, which is next door to us. So if the board has any feedback for us about facade, we'd like to sort of have an idea of which direction the board might like to see the building facade go in relation to those two structures. Probably not a division down the middle, brick on the right and stone on the left, but that's why I'm not the architect.
Well, I think it, as Brad knows from the prior application, I wasn't on the board at the time, but the board spent a lot of time on developing that facade and making sure it stayed that way. So I think we would want to follow suit.
Okay. Thank you very much. I think that's it for tonight for us.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, members of the board.
You're welcome. Hope to see you next time, John.
Yeah, let me tell you a quick story. The reason you can't see me
Oh,
is
you
'cause I'm doing
got
two
an
meetings.
Irish guy who's going to tell a story. Here we go.
I'm on two meetings. They can see me on the other meeting, and
Where's
that's
that
why
mute
you
button
can't see me.
again?
Well, I hate this job. Good night.
Good night, John. All right.
Bye-bye.
Next is 7 Purdy.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, thanks very much for having us. And I'll start. I'm going to turn it over so that Steve can describe what we're doing. I think you're familiar with it. It's a fairly straightforward plan, but that's probably where we should start. I will say that I know that the chair and the board has expressed some questions about the legal status regarding the required parking here. And we've posited that the requirement for parking here is 0. And also that there's a history here of a variance that runs with the land. And I just want to let the chair know I've been in contact with the law department as late as today. It's my belief that we'll work through these things and that they'll have a firm opinion for you by the time we see you again. And in the meantime, we'd really like to just certainly there'll be some work to do from a pure planning perspective on the project, and we'd like to get the board's comments on that and thoughts on that so that we can kind of get moving on the homework on the site that we need to do. So I do want to let the chair know and the board know that we're working through those legal issues and think you'll have an opinion on that. But with that, if it pleases the chairman, I'll just ask Steve to describe our plan.
Okay, hold on. Okay, basically, I mean, we've been through this before. Basically, we have an existing second floor office space, which we're looking to convert into 4 residential units. This is the existing site plan here. And we'd have to create a secondary access for the residential units. And I don't know, that's basically it. I don't know. It really hasn't changed from before.
Have you been in touch with the building inspector, Steve?
Yeah, we've been discussing the enclosing the second egress.
And what's transpired? Still in discussions?
Yeah.
Okay.
We're still determining that phase of it.
What about the engineering department?
I haven't heard from engineering.
Okay.
I don't know if there's really anything to engineer because it's all existing.
Okay. Fine. So I guess we thank you, and I think we'll wait to hear from our town attorney's office. I actually, Joe, just for your edification, I spoke to him at 6:15 tonight, and he wasn't clear on his review as yet. So
Yeah, I think
you're absolutely right. There's, he's still looking into it.
Yeah. Jonathan himself got into it and dove in quickly and aggressively, but I think he's still gathering the information. I spoke with him about the other stuff that he'll need, and I'm sure we'll get to all that. I do wonder then, is there any other comment that we should expect? Again, we'll need to get to the bottom and to the satisfaction of the board on the parking issue, and I think we will. But when we do that, I'd certainly like to be moving forward. I'd like our team to be moving forward on anything that you'd like us to do in a responsive sense. I mean, I don't know whether we should expect anything from engineering or Pat from your office, just so that we can be proactive in advancing it when it's, when we've resolved those other issues.
Joe, the only issue relates to any change to the use of utilities, water, sewer from the site from a commercial use to a residential use.
There an open space requirement?
There would be, correct.
Okay, so Pat, I'll follow up with you on that then, and as can Steve, and if you'll put us on, be kind enough to put us on for the next meeting. I think I'd very much, I can tell you that I will get the information to Jonathan that he's looking for within the next couple of days. And as you know, your deadline for your next meeting is, close on the heels of this meeting, and it'll be my hope. And I think Jonathan's that he'll have something for you, well in advance so that you can take that into consideration at the next meeting, and maybe we can move to a hearing on it. So I thank you for that. And Pat will follow up with you.
Okay, thanks, Joe. Thanks, Steve.
Thank you.
Next application is Alstott.
Okay, good evening. Robert Sherwood, landscape architect. I will share my screen with you all. As you know, this is for a swimming pool located on 117 Stonewall Circle. We were in front of you a few months back with the original configuration of the pool going vertical out into the rear yard towards the wetland that's in the rear yard. Obviously, this is all lawn space now. We took your comments, rotated the pool, showed some mitigation and landscaping. That pool is about 22 feet away from the existing deck. After that second meeting, we are presenting to you this plan, which will be a pool that we've moved to about 15 feet off of the existing deck, which is in here. here's the 100-foot wetland setback line. We've made the buffer much larger, boosted it up with many more plantings, as well took into consideration from the consultants a physical demarcation of this conservation and wetland mitigation area. And that would be with a picket or a split rail fence, excuse me, not a picket fence, a split rail fence would be located right at the edge of this barrier here of the wetland mitigation. Currently, we're about 80 feet in this corner to the wetland edge, to this line from the existing or the proposed terrace to the wetland edge. And we're about 70 feet from this corner here to this part of the wetland edge on the property. Again, tried to minimize it, made the terrace smaller on both ends, brought the overall impervious and developed area within the wetland setback to 1,700 square feet approximately. And we are mitigating in this area around 3,400 square feet of lawn that's going to be basically brought into a more functioning wetland buffer. That sums up the changes and the progression of the plan. And I guess I will open it up to your guys.
Okay. Anybody on the board have any comments on the new plan?
I'd just like to say, I think they've taken our comments into consideration, and I like this a lot better than the original layout, and I appreciate what you've done.
Thank you.
Anybody else? I guess we can move to a vote then. Pat? We can do that.
I do. Beth's here, Tom, if you want to hear from Beth as well.
Oh, she is. Okay, I'm sorry. Beth?
Good evening. I would say I was having trouble with my camera, but I sound like John Canning then. I have, Pat and I have worked with Rob to try to get this plan to be more in line with plans that I know your board has looked favorably on in the past, getting the pool further away from the wetland and beefing up the wetland edge, and trying to make sure that moving forward, everyone knows, building department owners, future owners, where the wetland mitigation starts, so that the lawn doesn't just reappear where the wetland mitigation plantings are. And I think Rob has done a good job trying to accommodate those comments.
It was pointed out to us by the town engineering department that the wetland associated buffer stretches through 7 contiguous parcels, lots 6 to 12. And none of the lots appear to have pools within the wetland buffer. And most have appeared to keep the natural conditions within the buffer, with the exception of lots 8 and 9. The wetland and its buffer appear to extend into lots 8 and 9 significantly more than the others. These also seem to contain the most area of buffer and wetlands to not have remained in a natural condition. So based on that, and based on what you've been able to work out, Pat, Rob, and Beth, I think it says a lot about what's being offered here as compared to what existed. Right? I mean, the engineer looked at all of the lots, looked at the map, and pointed out before seeing your submission here that this lot was basically all lawn and didn't pay attention to the wetland or the buffer at all. With that in mind, when you presented this initially, my feeling was I was going to go to a vote the first meeting and just say no. It took us several meetings to get you to this point, and I think that's probably what this process is all about. is to, unfortunately, what ends up happening, Rob, is you're representing your clients, you're trying to do as little as possible. Okay, we're representing the town of Harrison and the folks, and we're trying to get you to do as much as possible, or in the best case for us is for you not to build anything in the wetlands and just restore them and keep them natural. So I think this is probably, as Chip said, is probably a good median between the two. So it's up to the board what you'd like to do. We can continue to try to change this. We can say no. We can approve it. It's up to somebody who wants to present a motion at this point.
Rob, can you just go over again? I know you said it, but so you're doubling, you went from 1,700 to 3,400 square feet?
Yeah, complete mitigation is around 3,400 square feet. And so that was obviously, existing lawn that really had no, buffer qualities. And the amount that we're disturbing and creating some impervious surfaces is 1,700 square feet. So we've done a 2-for-1 kind of basis.
Okay. And then the other thing, Mr. Chairman, I know we've talked about it, and I don't know the right format to put it in, but what happens is houses get sold, wetlands disappear, the buffers disappear. So we had talked about some kind of bond or inspection process for these. I don't know how to put that in the form of a. Well, I can put it in the form of a motion. I just don't know what the numbers.
I think you say it, Joe. If you're going to make a motion to approve this plan, you say, well, as Beth has recommended, that there's a compliance inspection of the plantings prior to a CO being issued, and then you want to have a bond placed up for a period of inspections over, because this particular property has shown that it was not in line with observing the wetland buffer. So maybe we want to have a 4 or 5 year inspection of it.
I just think we should do that for all of these because they're here all the time. So I appreciate, as Chip said, I appreciate this is much better than when we started. And I think I'd like to at least have the building department have that mechanism to be able to inspect, to make sure that it stays there and somehow that it's translated, when your clients, decide to move to South Carolina to go to the Dunkin' Donuts by Clemson, so that the new owners know what the requirements are. So I don't know how that happens. Pat, is that something on a deed? Is that something in a, how do we memorialize this so that it doesn't go away?
So
Not
Joe,
that your client's going to do it, but
yeah. So until we codify this in a revised wetland ordinance, I think we're going to do it all those ways. In the resolution, notes on the plan, deed restrictions, covenants on the property. I think we have to do that. And until we change the law, unfortunately, that's what we have to do.
So I'll make that motion that you can write. Puts all that stuff in there to approve a wetlands permit for here.
So we're gonna have.
Can I just say, I think I just want to understand what we're talking about here. Wonderful job with adjusting everything. Fabulous plan for mitigation. Great points, Tom, on everything. What I don't understand is, are we asking them to put a bond that would last for 5 years? I misheard that, right? I mean, an inspection in 5 years, fine. But I think it would be going way, way too far to expect someone in the town to have the town keep a bond for five years. I think I must have be misunderstanding that. Can somebody clarify a little bit more on that?
So Noni, today we require stormwater maintenance bonds for the stormwater management practices, which include rain gardens and all the plantings in the rain gardens. So it's actually a fairly common tool that we employ if in fact the plantings are mitigation measures necessary to allow you to grant the permit. I mean, you have the ability to bond those improvements so that they remain.
I've never heard us approve and put for a residential home in this type of situation. What I'm trying to say is I do not mind approving based on a 5-year inspection or any kind of inspection. I do not recall ever approving, specifically writing into something, a bond like this that would run.
Never for a single family
Let's call
home.
it a fee.
No, and I don't want to get into that, and I will not approve it if that, yes.
Let's call it a fee and escrow.
It's not that, it's you're holding on to townspeople's money for 5 years. That's just unacceptable.
So what happens on the 5th year when the town goes
We
back
have to have some
inspect?
level of
Can I
trust.
finish? Can I finish?
Mm.
When somebody goes back in 5 years and the plantings are gone, who replaces them? And it's a different owner.
We're going to do it on an annual basis. It's an annual inspection. And if they want to pay on an annual basis for the inspection, that's fine. They can pay an annual inspection fee. That's
Okay,
fine.
I'm going to just say something, and I'm not going to continue this argument here. We can talk about it some other time, I think. This is, I feel a little bit, asking a little bit much for this. I haven't had a chance to talk about it. I don't want to talk about it in a public forum right here. I think that at some point, it gets a little punitive. You know, these are homeowners that are clearly going to put $100,000 or something into those plants. It's going to cost a lot. And at some point you have to trust that they're going to want to maintain those plants. And if there's a problem with inspection, we deal with it at that time. We have dealt beautifully, I think, with these situations time and time again, largely thanks to Beth. Thank you so much, Beth. But we have worked these things out very, very well. We've had a lot of these issues came out of these initial developments where, you know, there was no capacity to inspect. 5 years later, there was, you know, this was allowed to happen, if you will. But I think to now turn around and ask homeowners one by one that the town, to enjoy their property, the town is going to ask to hold on to their money essentially for 5 years is something we need to discuss a little bit more.
I don't have a problem with that, Noni. I don't have a problem not holding the money. What I want to do is I want to be able to have a way for Beth to be able to go out to the property on an annual basis to make sure these plants have grown, make sure that they haven't been cut down by a landscaper by accident, and within a 5-year period of time, we should be sufficiently satisfied that these plantings are in good shape.
Absolutely, I have no
She has
problem.
to be the one that makes the comments. She has to talk about replacement. These are important areas to us. We're taking a buffer and we're putting in this large, massive pool and you know, terrace and pergola, all of that stuff that is we're actually, that we're getting something in a trade. We're making the wetland better, the buffer better. But we don't, but experience tells us that unfortunately, people don't care about it.
I agree. But inspection is something that I think is reasonable. Very definitely reasonable. I think that is something that, you know, of course, this would be inspected before it would get its, you know, final approval or whatever.
Right.
So the plantings would have to be in. I can't imagine any homeowner wanting to freshly plant all this and just let it go by the wayside. But yes, I think an inspection on some reasonable timetable. And then if there is a problem with the plantings, you know, it's discussed at that point. Either there's, you know, some type of fee or some type of, you know, something that has to be rectified at that time. But I don't have a problem with inspections. I think it should be on the town's dime if we're going to send somebody out there. Again, I feel that at some point the homeowners are paying enormous taxes. No, there's huge taxes. We have a right to enjoy our property to a degree.
And we also have a right to disagree.
This is a great plan, and it came out of a wonderful back and forth. And I really appreciate Rob's, Robert's attention to this, the homeowners' attention to this, their willingness to continue to work with us on this. But at some point, I just don't want us to be too heavy-handed as an administration, in an administrative way, okay? If you want to talk about it more as a board and we want to look at it more carefully with Pat in terms of how we move forward on these, fine, but just not, I will not vote for putting a bond on this particular situation. Approval, yeah, I mean, inspection, yes. I just want to make that clear before we move forward.
Okay.
We've been talking about this for the past 5 meetings.
In
Somebody
defense of
wanna
the
make a
applicant,
motion?
What have we been talking about? I'm sorry, Joe. What have we been?
About having some method for the building department to enforce the wetland buffers because people
Fine, a
remove
method,
them.
yes, we have a method, inspection and some type of a ticket or some type of
Well,
a, whatever
don't
you call
have-
it, but
we-
not
we-
to, you can't ask to hold the homeowner's money for 5 years.
If I didn't misunderstand Pat, the code does not allow for some sort of ticket or appearance fine. So the only way to do it is to do it this way until the wetland code gets changed, unless I misunderstood what you said, Pat.
No, that's correct.
in defense of the applicant here, we are going to be installing that split rail fence along basically the front edge of this wetland mitigation. We do have to supply the town with an as-built survey. And if we could at that time, put it on the survey at that point, that this was supposed to be a mitigation area and to remain intact. And so that if future homeowners do purchase the property and they do any kind of research at the town, they will see this survey that will be filed.
Great. You know, it's really never the applicant, it's when the house gets sold. And those single ones don't ever come back to the planning board. They wind up with an inspection or a building permit somewhere, and there's no method that the town has to reinstate those things when it happens. So, you know, I'm gonna stay with my original motion that we grant the wetland permit here, that there's an inspection method that's put here, and some sort of way for the town to replace the mitigation if it's removed.
Well, now you're putting the applicant in an awkward place because I said I won't vote for that, and yet I like the plan. So that's not fair to the applicant either. I think we should table that part of the discussion and look at it as something that is, again, codified moving forward. That if applicants come in front of us and we can manage to find a mitigation that works for everybody, that it is then bonded as well. So that the applicant walking into this, we all know, what the final arrangement is likely to look like. I just feel that this is an awful lot to ask this applicant to ask, not just, all the time that he spent on getting this plan correct, doing the pool, which will enhance, the value of the property, which is great in a way for the town. This beautiful mitigation back there that is also great for, for the landscape, but then to again ask for money on top of that, that we will hold for X number of years seems a little bit much.
I think we, Noni, you keep going back to that. I think we said we don't need a bond. We can do it on an annual basis, an inspection fee. And that's done on many things that homeowners have to pay for. You have an RPZ. that you
Okay,
have to
I
test
guess
it
I'm
every year.
hearing you and Joe differently. I guess
Okay.
I'm hearing you and Joe differently. Joe, if it's an
I think it gets
inspection
us to, I
fee,
think it gets us to the same.
an
it
inspection
gets-
fee, that's, yeah, fine. I mean, I
Gets
just,
us to the same point. It's saying the end result is to have an inspection. Okay, and in order for Beth to go out there, she's got to get paid. Now, I don't know what that is. Is it $25? Is it $1,000? I don't think it's $1,000. I don't think it's 25. It's probably some nominal fee. It's an inspection. We have to be able to do it. If you think we can do it through the taxes, I'm fine with that. Let's put the application on hold. We'll get the bond, we'll get the language put together, and then we'll come up with a solution. that everybody.
Well, now, an inspection fee is the purpose of the bond an inspection fee?
no-
That doesn't,
I
I
don't,
think-
I'm on an agreement with a bond. That's just a term. Okay, what I'm in agreement with is getting an annual inspection for a number of years so that this area has a chance to grow, mature, and get replaced if it has to get replaced, if the landscape is doing some damage back there. You
Could
know,
we write, I'm with you, Chairman, could we write that into the resolution of approval that the homeowner agrees to pay for the town consultant to come out once a year to inspect the
that's great. I mean, if
mitigation?
that's,
You know,
that's what I'm
that-
talking about. And I think for
well,
Joe's
that's not a
purposes right
bond.
now,
That is
I
not,
think
okay,
that
but that's,
gets him to that point. Okay,
that's
bond
fine.
was-
That's not a
Bond was
bond.
mentioned once. You mentioned it 5 or 6 times. It was mentioned
Joe
once.
mentioned it again. Joe's, sorry, this is why I didn't want to have this discussion right now.
Well, we
but
have to
I-
have it, Noni, because when are we also going to have it? We have to have the discussion. This is important. We have 3 more of these things coming up, the pools and wetlands. We're going to have to do it.
I think paying, fine, Beth going out there at the homeowner's expense is completely fine with me. If the homeowner is willing to do that, that's totally fine. I mean, I don't have a problem with that.
And what happens when the homeowner, not this one, a homeowner doesn't comply? What method does the town have to enforce anything if that doesn't happen?
If I may, I think Rob made a good point that I am assuming that as-built surveys are required where pools are concerned, and before there's a CO or a certificate of compliance issued by the building department for the pool, if that as-built survey identifies this wetland mitigation area and states that it is to remain intact, that's a good step toward having a piece of paper that we can take to a future owner and say, you weren't allowed to take out that 3,400 square feet of plantings, and then figure out with that future owner what the remediation, what appropriate remediation is.
And Beth, if that works in terms of an enforcement for the building department, then fine. I mean, that's the bottom line here is that the town has some way to address somebody who removes the wetland plantings that we approve so that they can get something that they're not entitled to as of right.
Right, and I think the fact that an as-built survey is done for the pool showing its location and configuration, having notes on that as-built survey referring to the required wetland mitigation is a good start to that, Joe.
Great. I amend my motion, Mr. Chairman,
How?
that we would require the applicant to identify the wetland mitigation on the survey, on the as-built plans that are submitted to get the CO, that they would be required to have a inspection before the CO, and that they would be required to have 5 years of inspections for the wetland plantings paid
Okay.
for by the applicant.
Do we have a second?
I'll
Second
second
that, Jeff.
Jeff.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Is it unanimous?
Yes.
Okay, all right, good.
Thank you all.
Okay, good
Thank
luck
you.
with it.
Thank you.
Okay, next one is Fouts Pool.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. My name is Sean Jansky. I'm here with Juliana Alzate, also a landscape architect. And we're here again. I'm sharing my screen now. Can you see that?
Yes.
Just to show you an aerial image, we're here for a swimming pool project. So the same vein as the one you just reviewed. Here's an aerial image of Brookvane Lane. And if you can see my mouse, we're here to propose a swimming pool at the end of the cul-de-sac. It's the one property here that does not have a swimming pool. And to refresh your memory, this was a project where in 2010, the planning board did a lot of work and went through a lot of review and approved a swimming pool location that you can see kind of in the dashed outline here. This is the plan that we submitted in January with a relocation of where we wanted to put the pool and some proposed mitigation plantings that you can see shaded along the stream. At that meeting, we requested an adjournment to really take a closer look at all of the information that you guys reviewed back in 2010, so we could really try to best align our application with that hard work that you did then. So we've resubmitted a new plan, which I can show you here, to try and get that a little bit more in line with what you've already reviewed and approved. And we think this is a very solid mitigation. The combination of green and yellow areas add up to about 9,000 square feet. I mean, that's a lot of area of lawn to revert to mitigation planting. So I think there's a real definite net benefit to the stream and to the pond to mitigate the work in that way. So it's a 3-to-1 planting. So I wanted to bring that up. We also show, to that point of how can we protect it, a pretty clear delineation of boulders that we would put along the edge of the lawn, and we have found that to be very effective. You know, large stones that don't move easy, and it makes a pretty clear line where you can mow to and where you're not going to mow beyond. So we found that to be very effective way of protecting the mitigation plantings. I wanted to talk about one of the main changes from the plan that you approved in 2010, which was the location of the pool. One of the reasons we wanted to move it, or one of the benefits of moving it where we have it, is that we can minimize the amount of disturbance or grading to build it because it's an infinity pool. So on the right side of the screen is that original pool that was approved, and it was kind of a traditional flat pool with patio all around it. And then that essentially means you have to grade a pretty large level area, which was about 10,000 square feet of grading and disturbance. And on the left side, being an infinity pool that works well on a hillside, it's closer to the construction access off the driveway, and it's only 7,500. So it is a pretty significant reduction in the amount of disturbance to build it. The pool's no closer to the wetland than it was approved, than was previously approved. So we're actually a little further from the wetland edge. And we have a cross section here down on the bottom, so you can kind of see what I mean about how an infinity pool, in addition to being kind of a nice feature, works well as sort of a strategic construction on a hillside. So this is the current plan that we've submitted, along with this updated mitigation plan that, like I said, it's about 9,200 square feet of mitigation plantings, which is a pretty significant amount. I mean, it's larger than my property. So we think this is a really strong application, and that has a real net benefit and an increase in protection to the stream and to the pond.
Okay. Anybody on the board have any comments, concerns, issues? I for one, think that you've done a very nice job in coming to this point. I think the site is going to be terrific when you get done with it.
It's a beautiful spot. I think I agree.
So I would suggest, unless anybody has other comments, I would suggest we have a motion and for approval, and we also have the same type of tag on that we had on the prior application, where we have an inspection of the mitigation plannings prior to the CO being issued, and that we have annual inspections for 5 years.
Does this require an amended survey as well?
Yes,
So that it would have to be noted on the survey as well. Okay.
yes. So we have that motion?
I'll make that
Somebody?
motion, Tom,
Okay,
with the tag on.
I'll
okay.
second, Chip.
All in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Aye.
Okay, unanimous? Okay, Sean, good luck with the project.
All right, thank you very much for your hard work. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. Feldman Pool.
Good evening, members of the board. Dan Collins, Hudson Engineering. I got my video working this time around. Turned it around on you guys, so I'm back again. Let me share the screen quick. Again, as you already know, we're here to represent our client to obtain the required wetlands permit to construct a new pool at their property at 24 Brayburn. The existing site is approximately 1 acre lot located in the R1 single family district with the single family residence located to the front with driveway access from Brayburn, with the remainder of the lot as lawn and landscaping in the back. There is an existing watercourse along the left or western side of the property that's lined with two stone walls on either side, channelize it. And there is an existing wetland along the northeast corner that crosses the northeast corner of the property that was delineated by William Kenny, wetland specialist, as it was a hydric soils in this area. So this is currently actually lawn, but now it's delineated as landscaping. I mean, as as wetlands. The submitted design has actually gone through a few iterations between the town review and the town's consultants, consultant Beth Evans' office. In the initial submission, we had actually placed the proposed pool off basically between, there's an existing drainage easement, basically between the rear of the deck of the property and the existing drainage easement. The rain garden was then put off to the northwestern quarter of the property. After submitting this in and going through some review from the engineering department, as well as the wetlands consultant, we actually relocated the pool directly off the back of the property. This pulls it off towards basically the limits of the wetland buffer. We've also relocated the rain garden up out of that area in the northeast western corner, away from the drainage easement that's here, and I've aligned it basically at the top, parallel with the existing water course. As part of that last submission, we were also requested to put together a wetland mitigation planting plan. Initially, since again this is all grass, this will all be coming out, and then will be planted with native wetland species, and basically become more of a natural wetland area. Additionally, the rain garden would also be planted up with water-friendly plantings, which we think would actually be a benefit to the buffer as well, in lieu of, let's say, the Cultec units or a piped attenuation. Again, this was submitted and subsequently reviewed by Beth Evans' office. So we bolstered it up a little bit more. So right now we're basically added a ton of additional plantings within this area. Again, this was a existing lawn area. Now it's basically being returned to natural wetlands areas. This is basically providing now 3,360 square feet of wetland area that wasn't there previously back onto this property. Again, stormwater, as I said before, impervious area is going to be conveyed to the rain garden size to treat the water quality volume as required by the town, and then overflow directly into the existing water course that runs parallel to the eastern property. We did receive the additional comments from Beth Evans' office, and obviously we will be working with her to provide some additional plantings. We do believe that this is a considerable improvement over what is currently out there. Obviously, there's a hydric soil, so there's really no wetlands plants that exist right now. This will bring this back to life as a new wetland area. Our client is willing to actually do more plantings and do whatever it takes to obviously get this approved and move forward. So as a result of tonight's meeting, we're looking for some feedback from the board, and if there's any chance that this can be approved tonight, that would be amazing. Any questions?
That would be amazing. What's the size of the pool, Dan?
The pool is, hold on one second. I believe, actually, you know what? I can check that. I have the drawing open right now.
Okay.
The pool and patio? Are you looking at the pool and the patio or just the pool?
I'm just looking at the size of the pool.
The pool itself is approximately 737 square feet. And it's about
20 by 80, 20 by 40,
18 by
18?
40, 18 by 40. So you're close, about almost about 20 by 40.
Okay. Once you go back to the plan where your most recent plan, where you put the mitigation plantings on it.
All right, here you go. Most recent.
Okay. Have we retained Pat yet?
We did, and you have a memo from her.
I know we have a memo, but sometimes we haven't actually retained her. Says in my notes that we need to retain her. Since this is the first time we're seeing the application. Is it the first time?
It is.
Okay. So let's have a motion to retain Beth, even though she's already produced a memo.
I'll move, Ethan.
Okay, second?
Second, Joe.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, Beth is retained. Okay, Beth, you want to talk to us about this application?
Sure. We went out to look at the site and concur that the hydric lawn is hydric lawn, but it does, if you go off site, this all drains down toward other areas that are wetlands, vegetated wetlands and ponds. And with this particular site, yes, they have provided a mitigation plan for the restoration of the wetland, but the board just spent a considerable amount of time talking about enhancement of the buffer as well. And I think in this case, giving back some additional buffering, both for the offsite areas, giving back some of the lawn would be in order if the board were going to consider this application to be consistent.
Okay.
And can I ask you a question? What's the actual square footage of the disturbance? And what's this?
Square footage disturbance that we have? Disturbance is, where are you on here? Unless he didn't label it. That's another thing I can get from the drawings.
And then what's the square footage of the mitigation that you're proposing? And then what's that yellow line?
Disturbance within the buffer. Bear with me. Is, and I'm doing this real time, so hold on one second. $5,729 square feet.
That's the disturbance in the buffer. And your,
in the buffer.
And your proposed mitigation is how much?
It is 3,360.
You need to go talk to Beth.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I think a good portion of this lawn is going to need to be included in a mitigation planting before I can recommend that the board approve it. It just, they pulled it closer to the house. They've minimized the terrace around it to some extent, but there's still an awful lot of lawn left at the end of the day.
What's the yellow line, Dan?
The yellow line is a flood line.
Is it what line?
Yes, that's the flood line, yeah.
Flood line, gotcha, thank you.
So this is a flood,
The flood zone.
right-hand side of the property is in floodplain?
Or is the pool in the floodplain?
Oh, is everything,
pool,
the house is in the floodplain, everything?
Yes,
So
This
it's the
is all in the
left,
floodplain,
left
yeah.
of the line is the floodplain.
yes.
Yeah, you're gonna have to really do a lot of planting back there.
I mean, Mr. Chairman, we've been on the floodplain with the Webb Avenue thing. I mean, we talked about, 3 to 1 of pervious to mitigation of the amount of water. I didn't realize it was in the floodplain.
Yeah, me either.
I mean, we're not adding any additional fill in there. So, I mean, obviously we're prohibited to do that anyway. That's not something we're doing. So all the grading that we're doing is actually, it's evened out. So we're not going to be filling in within that wetland. I mean, the floodplains.
Well,
Dan,
you are.
what flood zone are you in? Is this a
That's the
velocity
zone A.
zone? Pardon?
Zone A.
Okay.
I don't have that off the top of my head.
This is dicey.
I mean, I don't even know how it would be calculated. I mean, we've asked for another applicant who's building in a floodplain in order to even be considered, that they'd have to provide, 3 gallons of water for every gallon of storage that they're taking away. When you put in a structure in the floodplain.
Yeah.
So, I mean, in addition to the wetland buffer, holy mackerel.
Well, I mean, again, we're not adding any additional fill in this area. We're actually taking away. The pool might be located in the floodplain, but we're not adding material. We're not importing material.
But you putting a non-porous surface in the floodplain. Oh, listen, I'm one person, but this is, hey man, I think we need to be consistent. If you're gonna build in a floodplain, there has to be a benefit more than just a 1-for-1.
I think you gotta rethink this application, Dan. You gotta give us not only substantially more mitigation, you have to, now that we've realized that you're in the floodplain, where's the storage?
Well, that's what I mean. We're cutting out. I mean, where this 240 comes back, so we're actually leveling out back towards the rear of the house. So we're not actually adding any fill to it. So we're basically we're taking away by cutting in.
I think you're missing the point, or maybe I'm missing your point, and Joe's point is that you're building a structure in the floodplain. You're asking us to give you permission to build a structure in the floodplain. And where's the storage for that square footage that you're building, that structure? All you're saying to us is you're not filling in anymore. But we're saying to you, but we're supposed to be getting some flood storage. Would be remiss in not requiring that. Now, whether we take substantial mitigation back here of plantings, and we have you dig it out and create, a flood storage area. Retention area of some sort. So, why don't you work on that and get back to us?
Okay, we can look at that.
All right. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much.
Good point, Joe. I didn't realize what that was.
Wow.
27 Century Ridge Road. No.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman.
Excuse me, Westchester Joint Waterworks.
Okay, okay.
Sorry.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. I'm Steve Robbins with Woodard and Curran Engineering here on behalf of Westchester Joint Waterworks. And I know that we have some Westchester Joint representatives here on the line as well. Looking to present to you all some modifications to the existing Purchase Street booster pumping station. And if I could just get a thumbs up from someone to make sure you can see the screen here.
You can
Thank
do
you.
it.
Very, you know, I've done it many times, just want to always like to double check.
Yep.
This is the existing Purchase Street booster pump station site. Purchase Street here on the left. The airport is a few hundred feet to the north on this site. This site currently contains an existing pumping station building and 2 storage tanks, 1 million gallons of water in each tank. Westchester Joint is undertaking improvements to the pumping equipment on the interior of the pump station. And as part of that, they need to increase their emergency standby power capacity at the site. The existing generator is located to the south of the existing station. And I'm going to zoom in here a little bit now that we've been oriented as to where we are on Purchase Street. The existing generator is located to the south of the pump station. We did some alternatives analysis for a variety of locations for where the new emergency generators might go. And being sensitive to a lot of the buried underground utilities in the area, the vicinity of the existing generator was not determined to be a feasible location. And so we are proposing to put those generators over here to the east of the existing pump station building. And this is separated from the property line by about 37 feet with a privacy fence here along this property boundary and a security fence on this side of on the south side of the driveway. There would be underground conduits going to and from the generators to the automatic transfer and manual transfer switch gear equipment located adjacent to the building in an existing parking area. This project is important to the Joint Waterworks in terms of maintaining their pumping capacity and meeting summer peak demands and fire flow demands in their upper high service zone, excuse me. And they are seeking the board's input and guidance on this as they do hope to proceed.
Okay, I have only one question, Steve.
Yes.
Is the property line, you have a neighbor that's on the up there, or is that your property as well?
The line to the north is undeveloped.
Undeveloped, okay.
Correct.
The board doesn't have any questions. I would suggest that we set the public hearing. Let's have a motion for that, please.
Make the motion, Marshall.
I'll second Noni.
Okay, thanks, guys. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. Okay. You're all set for a public hearing in April, April
27th.
April 27th.
Thank you very much. We appreciate your time this evening.
You're welcome. Now it's 27 Century.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. How are you? My name is Bob Stanzale. I'm the architect for the proposed dwelling at 27th Century Ridge Road. I have George Motorella, who's also on the line here somewhere. I don't see him up there, but I'm sure he's there somewhere, who's the civil engineer for the project, who will speak more directly to the steep slopes. But I just want to share my screen and show you what the project is, if we can. Can you see that?
Yes.
Okay, this 27th Century Ridge Road formerly supported a single-family dwelling which was demolished many years ago. What we're proposing is a new, about a 4,200 square foot dwelling, including the garages to the rear of the property. There'll be a new septic field developed in the front of the property. There are two driveways one on the right-hand side, one on the left-hand side that actually accessed the former dwelling. We're going to rebuild the property to the left-hand side to the proper grade to get to the new dwelling that we're proposing. I do have this was our presentation to the, if you can see that, to the Architecture Review Board, which they approved. This is the new proposed dwelling. This is zoom this up a little bit, similar dwelling that I've worked with Mr. Grasso before, the owner of the property and developer once before, a similar house that he's developed prior. It's a mix of brick and shakes. It's a very attractive dwelling, of course. And I know we're here to talk about steep slopes. This is our steep slope map that shows where we are with respect to steep slopes. We're not affecting any of those. But if George is on, if you're here, and let you speak to, I'm going to unshare my screen and let you talk about the steep slopes in particular.
Sure. Can everybody hear me?
Yes, we can.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Yes, the area where we're going through on the steep slopes up where the house is being built, they are there because when they demolished the house, they created steep slopes in that area. For the majority of the land disturbance, we are only going to develop the driveway in a portion of the steep slope area. Where the other section you looked at on that plan in blue in the front, that's in the expansion area for the septic system. We have a septic approval from the county. The primary area is over 6,000 square feet. The expansion area is 4,400 square feet. Any of the existing houses up there don't have anything close to this because these are the new county specifications. So you've got 10,000 square feet that has to be committed to the septic area. And in that area, we cannot do anything except take out the old driveway and put in some topsoil and plant grass. In the drawing, we show a wall on the expansion area, and that's only to lessen the slope if in the future they need to extend the septic into the expansion area. The driveway on the left side continues all the way up to the courtyard at 14%, which is the maximum allowable under the building code. The Coltech units that have been shown on the drawing are as per town specifications. The lower left side, we would have to take down 3 trees there to get the Coltechs in that area. Also, because of the septic regulations, we are prohibited to get any closer than 50 feet to any of the septic areas, the primary or the expansion area. That's why they're located down on the left-hand corner and will take in the rain washing down that driveway.
George, can I ask a question?
Sure.
Is that why the driveway is on that side of the property as opposed to the other side of the property? Because
The other side of the property, one of the original submittals showed it on the right side. We can make the 14%. However, because of the gradients on that side, we would have to put in 4 to 5 foot high retaining walls all the way up the driveway. The plan that you see now only requires maybe half of that distance for retaining walls up where the curve is to the right.
Okay, is there a property owner to the right side, or is that? a street?
Yes, there is.
So there's property owners on both sides?
Yes.
Pat, do you have, you've reviewed the project. Are we looking at a steep slope situation here that we have a concern? I mean, I can't find where we would have a concern over this.
So the applicants demonstrated, Mike has some comments on this. I think Mike's on board, is on the call as well. So they're complying with the steep slopes provisions. There's a relatively minor amount of steep slope encroachments. The question really related to whether flipping the house and the driveway would allow for minimizing the impact. So I think George was just describing how that doesn't necessarily result in beneficial impacts.
Okay.
But I do think Mike's reviewed this, and I think Mike's on the call.
Mike, do you want to comment on this?
Hi, Mr. Chairman. Yes, I know George has been working on this this lot for a while in some good detail. And like he said, one of the original plans that came by us had the driveway on the right side, but I believe it was also going to the garage where they stand now. And I had a conversation with George about what the effects would be if you flipped the house. So essentially you would keep the same length of the driveway, but the grades on the right side seem more favorable because it's starting from a higher spot in the street. So I'm not sure because we haven't seen a plan on that, but I wanted to at least offer it that information to the board.
Okay.
If I could add one more point, Mr. Chairman. Also, where the existing driveway is on the right side, that original plan showed us coming in that way, and there is a sight distance problem there.
Okay.
Because of the slope of the land coming down to the edge of pavement.
Okay. All right. Does anybody else on the board have any other comments? Concerns? So
Could we look at that though, George? I mean, is it a real difficult thing to look at what Mike has suggested, to flip the house and come in on the other side?
To put the driveway on the right side?
Yeah, and flip the house, right? So that your parking is the other way.
Actually, I don't think they need to flip the house, but as I said, the only drawbacks on that are the requirement of having stone retaining walls all the way up the driveway on both sides. And we'd have to do some heavy cutting to get proper sight distance down at the street.
Okay.
Well, so Mike, are you looking for, before we pass judgment on this, are you looking for some more work from George on this plan?
I will leave that up to you. I wanted to offer it out there if you want to see any possible alternatives. That's really the only one that I would have in this case. So between what he gave us and that one, I would think that those are the really only two feasible things to look at here. Whether whether you have need or reason to take a look at the alternate, I'll leave that up to you.
Okay. George, do you have any water flow issues here? Was that on the property?
Keep in mind, Mr. Chairman, right now, you have about 350 feet of two driveways with no checks whatsoever. That's all impervious area, which is coming down to Century Ridge Road. This plan proposes to intercept that water coming off this proposed driveway and put it into dry wells.
Okay. The back of the property backs up to Century Country Club?
Yes.
Now, is there any flow issues coming off of there, or is there a hill that goes back towards Century, or how's that work?
As soon as you clear the property line to the rear of this property, it starts to flatten out.
Okay.
But just looking, when I was up there, we were doing percolation tests and deep holes for the septics, and we got up into the back. We didn't see any, any scouring back there.
Okay. And we don't have any wetlands on this property, strictly a steep slope. If it wasn't for the steep slope concern, you would have already been able to build this house as of right.
Yes.
Pat, you back that? I know George said yes, but I'm asking you as well.
Yes, if it were not for the steep slope permit, this would just simply require a building permit.
Okay. All right. What's the position of the board? Do you want to have them provide another an alternative to take a look at before we rule on this?
I would.
Okay. Anybody else?
I would too, Tom.
Okay. So George, if you don't mind, could you, Joe, what are you actually looking for?
What Mike had suggested, if you don't think you need to flip the house, George, then don't, but to have the driveway and the disturbance be on the other side of the property, so we can look at it and see what it looks like.
Okay, not a problem.
Okay. All right.
Thank you very much.
Submit it.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Have a good evening.
You too.
Love.
Okay. We have anything to discuss? We have any a new training session in the planning? Mr. Clary?
There are 4 new WUMP sessions coming up in the next 3 months. So the case law update, I think, is coming up. I think you've got the email blasts for that. And then we have 3 more sessions, all being done remotely. And I think one of them is a lunchtime session as well. That's one of the ones that I'll be dealing with. So those might be easy sessions for you to tune into. And I think the WUMP blasts will be coming out to you in the next couple of weeks on all of those sessions.
Could we have that circulated?
Yep, the case law one's out now. I'll have Rose send that around to you tomorrow.
Okay. All right. Anybody have anything else they want to kick around, or is that it?
I have one quick question on the Dunkin' Donuts application. I didn't want to get into, design issues, but they can't I thought the discussion around that was incredible, just really to the point and all of that. But I wondered, it's impossible for them to put the monitor where you put your order in on the other side of the parking lot, if that makes sense. So it's further away from the building itself, allowing a longer queue. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think so. From what I understand, Noni, I think they have issues with relationship from the where you order and where you pick up your stuff. It can't be too far and it can't be too close. But I think that's a Dunkin' standard, I think. So we can talk to them about that.
You know what I mean? I didn't know. I kept looking at it thinking, well, then you're going to get into if the line is there and cars need to back out of the spots, that's going to be an issue. I mean,
oh, you mean
but
going
even
back through the rest of the parking lot?
going,
Yeah, that's all,
yes.
Yeah, that's not their property. So they have a right of access, I think, but I don't think they could use it for their queue devoted.
Right.
to
You
that.
understand what I mean, though. The
Yep, I
longer
do.
you can
Yeah, I
make the
think that's
circle, the
where
more you get it off
Yeah,
the
that's the
road.
post office parking back there. So I think others have claimed that space, so to speak.
Right. I figured as much. Okay.
Right. Okay. Anything else? If not, we'll see everybody in a month.
Can
Very
someone
good.
motion to close?
Can do that if you want.
Motion to
I'll
close.
move, Chip.
Well, before we close, we had to, the Riverside application, we needed to do a final site plan vote. Is that right, Raul?
No, that's a preliminary,
Just
that's a
preliminary
major
or-
subdivision. So it has to get preliminary first and then final.
And then
subdivision.
come back. Okay. All right.
Yeah,
I thought we
it's-
missed a step when we talked.
More
about
than
it.
5 lots
And-
and a road, it's a major subdivision.
And Century Ridge Road isn't worth doing a site visit to? Just, no,
Oh, it's always worth it. Yeah.
or just go out by ourselves. Yeah, I didn't know. It was, I just wasn't sure about that. Just go out.
Yeah, I mean, it's, me,
I don't know why from this plan, I don't, it was hard for me to envision the lay of the land, but it's just, it looks like a pretty simple steep slope. So I'll go out and I'll just go drive by.
okay. All right.
Okay.
And did I hear, George, that the only reason there's a steep slope there is because when they knocked the house down, they filled the property?
I think they piled some dirt on the front of the property. That's what was going
And they
on.
created a steep slope?
If you go to Westchester GIS, you do see steep slopes overlay on this property, and it could be man-made, but there is a section of steep slopes that runs through this property from the golf course.
But the area of that steep slope they're disturbing is just barely the threshold requiring the permit. So, if the guy with the bulldozer a few years ago when they were demolishing the house pushed that pile a little bit differently, they wouldn't be before you.
So I think the area of steep slopes that George referred to was the excavation for when we demoed the basement. So that was just from grade down to the basement level that got picked up on the survey.
Got it.
Hey, can I just make a comment? I don't know if this, is the hearing still open? Because it's not just the board in here.
Correct. Yep. We have guests.
Still open.
Got it, just making sure.
Yep.
I don't mind asking this no matter who's listening. I have a logistical question I also didn't want to raise when we were listening to it. Not logistical, it's just an aesthetic, I should say. On the 53 Halsted Avenue, the drawings that were shown don't show any of the power lines or anything there, or
Yeah.
how do we feel about that?
So that's why we want the photo renderings, Noni.
Yeah,
That's an
yeah.
artist's image. It's not a realistic image.
I mean, even when you see this major telephone pole on the corner there, and they've put a little tree that,
Yeah.
nearby,
Yep.
like, how's that gonna
Well, they would
work?
have to bury those though, right?
They would.
Would they bury all those lines?
Yeah,
That's our requirement, and that's
yeah.
what we're fighting
Wow.
with so many projects in the downtown right now.
Oh my gosh, I'm sorry, everybody, time out. I feel so out of the loop. I did not realize they'd have to bury all of those. That's incredible. Yeah,
They would have to bury
that,
it.
I think that would be a significant sorry, kicking things over here. A significant improvement though to that corner, getting rid of those power lines. But it's just a huge investment. Wow. It would just dive down next to the other building, or would it be the whole block?
So to be determined. So once we make it a requirement, and then Con Ed weighs in and tells the developer what has to be
How
done.
far they have to go, yeah.
Yep, and then the developer comes back to us and says, I don't want to do it anymore because it's too expensive. So,
All right. All right.
But Pat, what the reason for it is what?
it's aesthetic. It's
Well,
aesthetics.
Aesthetic for the town doesn't require for aesthetics.
Oh, yeah, that's primarily why we're doing it.
I thought it was the fire department.
Well,
Well,
that's, so the fire, yeah, so the fire, that's a separate issue. So when there's a power line in the way, the fire department's ladder can't get through the power line to get to the building. So,
Okay.
so the fire, there's two, you're right, Tom. So two different issues.
Right.
Yeah,
The-
but
There's
that
a
one's-
lower house. Yeah, I don't know that it would be
and so, and
required for
those
this site.
lines, those lines would be, 4 feet, 5 feet outside some of those windows.
Front
maybe, or
window.
something?
Oh, yeah.
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 Wow.
That's why
Okay.
if you remember the project on Calvert Street, they were happy to bury the power lines because of that very reason. Their tenants were going to look at a power line. Turns out Con Ed came back and said, yeah, to do that, you have to loop the line a mile around another street to get there. So
Okay.
it's got a little complicated.
So the aesthetic piece, I get, okay? But that's a developer decision. Right?
Well, you
Well,
know,
actually,
But
no.
the fire
that's-
department is pushing it, and I don't know if we have anything, do we have anything in the code that requires it?
No,
No,
so we don't. So it's your sort of aesthetic issue to underground utility lines in the downtown area. And it's the fire department's requirement that they are asking you to do that to help them, their firematic issues. That's what it is. Unfortunately, it's not in the code. That's why this is a tricky issue, and we have to deal with it sort of carefully on a case-by-case basis.
now is that similar or different to the sidewalk in front of Underhill Place? Where it goes to nowhere, where we're trying to start a process of everybody getting to the same
Similar thing. So, there are municipal initiatives that we try to take care of individually with individual applications. And if it's one chunk of a sidewalk that'll eventually connect to another chunk of a sidewalk and another, may take 20 years, but eventually there'll be a sidewalk there. Same thing with undergrounding utility lines. Some communities have done it through a municipal effort. We've chosen to do it on a case by cases through individual developers. Now, I will say, the mayor is engaging Con Ed in figuring out ways to do it on a broader scale as a municipal initiative. But that's sort of another issue that requires somebody else's money to do that.
It would be a huge improvement.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, when
It's
you-
Really just beautiful.
it should be a municipal thing. I mean, the municipality should say, we're gonna bury the lines in our downtown.
Yeah.
Okay, and we're gonna dedicate X amount of money toward that somehow and do it. But, you can't, like the Playhouse Lofts, the developer, right? He all of a sudden, Con Ed says, well, I want $1 million. For what? I want $1 million.
That's the hard thing. Con Ed is not an easy agency to work with.
A horrible
And it's
agency.
good to be the king, right? Con Ed says whatever it wants to say, and there's no appeal. You can't go to another power company. You're stuck with Con Ed. So you've got to deal with them, and it's their infrastructure, it's their network.
So you go ahead and you develop a project. There's another example, and you put in all your plans and all of your estimates a cost for gas. Con Ed says, oh, we're not going to do gas. They just say it. We're not going to do it. Okay, so every developer that wanted to put gas in a and even in a home, if you're building a house, they could say, we're not going to add another gas line.
That's right.
Okay, and that's what Con Ed does. That like Pat said, the king of the hill. Yeah.
But I will say, the overhead utility lines, you don't see them, right? They're just sort of there and you don't pay attention. Pay attention. Just when you're out and about, look at them. And it will drive you crazy for the rest of your years when you start seeing the overhead utility lines.
It's not just Con Ed. It's everybody.
That's the problem. It's Con Ed, it's
put
cable.
Stuff on those wires.
Yeah, Absolutely right. There's a million different utilities hanging on them. It's incredibly complicated to unravel that, no pun intended, and stick it underground. Once you start going underground, you find out all the funky stuff that's happening underground, all the vaults and stuff that are sticking out from people's basements into the right of way. It's an incredible undertaking. It really is.
Oh my gosh.
That's why it's $1 million a mile.
That's why it's $1 million a mile. It's absolutely right.
But it's
But
also
again-
a safety issue too, because, you know, wind and snow and, you know, other things, cars can knock down poles. I mean, it's
All the time.
Yeah.
Yep.
But you know what's funny, Joe, is, you know, we're talking about, okay, if you do it on this project, do that project, eventually the downtown will be, you know, everything will be on the ground.
Yeah, and it's really only from St. Gregory's to West Street. The other way is all the way downtown, and then Harrison Avenue.
It's going to take eons.
Yes.
Eons. None of us here, unfortunately, are going to be around to see it. I mean, you know, unless you decide you're going to spend the money as a town and you're going to do it, you're downtown, it's going to take forever. I mean, I know where I live, the lines are underground, but you go up the street and it's all above ground. So whenever the power goes out, because the lines are
Right.
you know, in the wind,
Right.
didn't help anybody. And it's not going to happen up the street. It'll never happen.
Well,
Is this
we
the
know where
last?
you stand now, Tom.
Yeah, I'm with it. I wanted to ask quickly, so are we thinking that this is the last that we see of AKA Harrison Hamlet? It's a beautiful, I'm really happy with, I hope everybody on the board feels like, I think that came to a great resolution. Does everybody agree with that?
Yep.
Yeah.
So, but that's about the second or third time we've been through it, right?
We've
Are they gonna
previously
really build
approved it.
this
Yeah,
time?
this is a reapproval. Yeah.
So, I think this is, I wasn't sure what was going on when it came back to us, but I think it's better,
The cluster plan is a better plan
much better plan,
for that
right?
site. That's the way to develop it. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's good. I just wanted to, I don't know, I felt like we didn't quite give it its due, like,
They'll be back one more time, right?
yeah.
Final plat
We
approval.
will be back.
Yeah, right. Oh,
They
there'll be
just got
some, there'll
preliminary.
be
yeah.
some, yeah, right. No, I know.
Or he'll tweak something on one of the houses again. So yeah, I got another idea.
Another 5 years down the road.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, we have a motion to close.
I think Jeff did 10 minutes ago.
Nobody seconded.
Second. All right.
All in favor?
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.
In April.
Good night.
Bye.
Good night.
Right.
Bye-bye.
Could some people wait?
For, like who? What do you want us to wait for?
1 second.
Okay, I'll wait.
Thank you. Just one more, I'm sorry. Just waiting, okay. So Ted Demergent sent 31 messages to the board while you guys were discussing. He
Other
sent
things.
31 chats. The last one said that truth will prevail.
Yeah, I saw it.
Yeah, he's making
Okay.
reference that you, Ro, didn't pass along his comments to the board, which you did. And
Yes.
the board presumably took them into consideration for what they were worth. So you're fine, Ro, don't worry about it. Yes, the truth will prevail, but don't be intimidated by him, Ro.
No, and I'm
You
I'm
passed
kind of
along his information to the board.
right, and I'm a little concerned that now he's pushing. He's saying there should be a site visit. He will totally harass everybody if you go out for a site visit. I did get a couple of neighbors called today saying that they wanted to log on just to hear if he speaks, because at the architectural review board, he represented the neighbors and they want nothing to do with him. So that's pretty much the reason why they all logged on, but I told them that he wasn't going to be allowed to speak. All right, well, I just wanted everybody to know that there were
Oh, we were
31.
watching it.
Yeah, we saw it.
We saw them all pop up.
But I think like Noni said, we can drive by on our own. I mean, we don't have to make it an official, group of
But he's
people
got-
out there.
He's got about.
Yeah, I
100
didn't
cameras.
mean to stir up the pot at all with him on that. Like I
But
I
he'll
know,
know-
we know who he is,
Yeah,
and
he'll know you're out there because he's got about 100 cameras on the property. And yeah. And so he'll definitely see you. And so don't be surprised if he, comes running out of his gates trying to flag you down.
He needs a hobby.
He has one.
That is his
So-
hobby.
So just to be sure, there's no wetland impact from a development on this piece of property, on the surrounding properties?
No.
With all the DEC stuff he was, but no, okay,
Nope.
it is what it is.
Like
well,
we
it could
said.
be a classic. The water may shed over the property to his.
I
It
think it
sounds like
does.
that's happening, but that's the way the water goes. And as long as they're not redirecting the water to any grade, isn't that the way essentially the guidelines?
That's right. And the water from this is going to go in the other direction. So this is, it's an angry neighbor. We've seen this before.
Yeah. The
But he's
water.
been voluminous in submitting his documents to you. You've seen them all. So you'll take whatever information is relevant into your consideration. That's the way it works. You don't have to acknowledge, he wants acknowledgement. You don't have to acknowledge the fact that you read his memo.
Well, we also have an application that is borderline steep slope.
Right.
Probably didn't have to come to us. But they did, and we're reviewing it, and, we're gonna have them do another little mock-up on what they.
Yeah, it'll
they
be
have.
better as a result of your involvement. There's no
Right.
doubt about it.
Yeah. And maybe it will all work out, but.
You're a funny guy.
He even stopped me, him and his wife stopped me in Wegmans.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
And I had a mask
Yeah.
on. I don't know how they saw, recognized me.
You gotta put the mustache with the nose on now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really do apologize if I stirred up the pot by talking about a site visit. I hadn't seen his letter. I will admit I hadn't really done my homework on that one. But I knew immediately when he started the email, and he was doing his thing, he's obsessive. Anyway,
All right.
all right.
Can we
Good
go
night
now?
again.
Yes.
Okay, good night.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Night, everybody.